Warning. The following contains bright, flashing lights and /or imager that may cause discomfort and /or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
So, like an OnlyFans, specifically for like the training community, you start the aspect of having a paid subscription type thing where you build it under the guise of being like a like a sexual thing, but when they were in there, you just peel it all back and it's just shooting like shooting Tannerite or something like that in a car.
Tannerite is kind of sexy, actually.
It is a very sexual experience to shoot Tannerite. Something I actually never experienced before in my life until recently. Somebody took me out to a field and he was like, "Hey, you want to shoot some Tannerite?" Like, I've seen this like in movies and stuff like that, but I've never had the experience. Never.
So it all depends on how much Tannerite you use, okay? And at what distance you shoot it itself,
Yeah.
too. So if it's a little bit closer and it's smaller amounts, it's a little ticklish downstairs.
Oh yeah, you feel it reverberate in the places where liquids are stored and formed. I guess
That is a $20 word that I cannot spell, and it just made me reverberate down there. Yeah, I mean, an OnlyFans for the shooting community. I mean, prior to this, we were talking about OnlyFans for men.
Yeah. Well, I there was a time when I was heavily, and still am, shadow banned and edited on social media, and I thought about putting some of the class content on Pornhub, out of all places. We did actually put a part of a class video, specifically a pig class. We were basically utilizing a pig carcass as a testing medium, and it got taken down.
It got taken. Okay, so what policy or guidelines did you violate?
I don't remember,
on Pornhub of all places.
It was taken down probably within 2 days.
Okay.
It had a lot of likes and a lot of comments, but it just got, again, there's a lack of freedom, I guess, in this country. So for people that don't know who you are, would you kind of introduce yourself?
Of course. Ed, you and I have known each other for quite some time now. But my name is Gerry.
Yeah.
I live in Los Angeles. I'm a former LAPD, former Marine, still in law enforcement, and then I'm an executive protection specialist right now. I work for one family. I've been working for that same family for going on 8.5 years now. I run the training program for them. I also do firearms training on the side with my company, Triple Feed. There's 3 founding members, Brian, Luis, and myself. The 2 of us, I'm sorry, the 3 of us, 2 of them live in Las Vegas and I live in Los Angeles.
So we've been, talking, hanging out. You've been through some of the training that I do. Had this surreal experience of tying you up somewhere, not in a sexual way.
I took it as a sexual way.
Well, it was a weird time. But we we have a common kind of like heritage background.
We do. We do a very
You want to. Like, where do your parents come from?
So okay, yeah. So it's funny because my dad is here with us.
He's wandering.
He's
around.
wandering around. Yeah.
Your dad looks so much like you. Like if you were to remember that Time Machine movie? If you
Hot Tub Time Machine or not that one? Bill and Ted?
The Time Machine, where when you escape that time bubble and you get really old really fast, and you can see that.
Isn't it like Jumpers?
Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that your dad is basically you're a clone.
We are carbon. If I'm going to show you a photo later on, and it's a photo of him in a vehicle with me, and I think he had a road soda with him in the car, and I'm sitting without a car seat, of course, because that's how we roll back in the day.
Oh yeah, no car seats. Why?
No, fuck that. And I thought I was looking at myself, and it scared the fucking shit out of me. It scared me.
So where are your parents from?
So we're from Mexico. So I was actually born in the U.S. However, my dad is born and raised in Tijuana, just like you.
Yeah, Tijuana native, which is a rare thing.
It is.
Not a lot of people are born in Tijuana.
People migrate to Tijuana, but they don't actually.
They don't time it right, and they want to have their kid in the U.S.
and it lands there. Yeah,
they drop it here, which may or may not have been my case. I don't know, but it's a transitory city, and it's rare. Even when I was in school, I remember like where was everybody born? And like 4 of us out of a class of 40 were
It,
from Tijuana.
it's very similar to like Los Angeles, actually. So like a melting pot of just random fucking eclectic people. They're just
Yeah.
all like, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? And especially like in the inner cities, that's kind of like the only way I could explain what Tijuana is like. I've never actually lived in Tijuana. I used to come here during the summer and spend the whole summer every year for years and
Yeah.
years. But like I'm kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse. So Tijuana is where he was born, but his family's actually from Michoacán.
Oh, Michoacano.
Ario, un pueblecito que se llama Ario.
That's deep Mexico.
It is deep Mexico. Yeah. I've only been there once, and it was fun. And I got my shoes and my hat stolen on my trip. My mother is actually raised in Rosarito, so it's right down the street too.
Yeah.
From
Beach
here.
town.
The beach
That's a
town.
beach town,
Yeah.
lazy beach town. Recently became a municipality. When I say recently, like I feel like maybe a decade ago.
Okay.
It used to be part of Tijuana, or like like this weird area far from Tijuana that didn't have its own governments.
And now it does. Shit.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly Americans kind of live there. It's quiet. It's nice.
Is it?
It's a great part of Tijuana. A part of Baja. I mean,
So I still have family there. I still have a lot of family there. I haven't been to this side of the world in probably a good 15 years.
You've been busy.
I've been busy, but I've been more. I guess at one period of my life, I could not come over here because of what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So there was no way that I could come out here without permission. And then I didn't have any family members that passed away for me to go, hey, my uncle died, so I have to go and visit. But I don't have a reason to come out here anymore that often.
So you mentioned how similar Tijuana and Los Angeles is. We've had, I don't know, like 3 guests from Los Angeles, including Conejo, the first guest we had in the season. And so, yeah, I've been out there myself, and the similarities as far as the urban sprawl, the transitory nature, people coming in and out of it, and specifically, paisanos that kind of live out there. So you were born in Los Angeles.
I was born in a little city called Bellflower, which is it's part of the Los Angeles municipality. It's the county of Los Angeles, I guess. But I've known LA for a long time now.
Now, like as a kid, from basically a immigrant, son of immigrants in Los Angeles. What is that? You were growing up during the '90s, I guess. Did you get to experience some of the
You could say it. It's fine.
Some of the unsafe parts of Los Angeles, specifically some of the. I mean, you were probably around for the riots, I guess, for that era.
Yeah. So I wasn't in South Central. I grew up in Paramount, which is like the border city of Compton. So I had a lot of friends from Compton, a lot of the areas there, a lot of stuff in Paramount. But I would go to downtown LA a lot with my parents, Huntington Park. We call it HP and whatnot. So I grew up very protected from my family. My mom and dad would beat my ass if I left the house.
Wander around.
Oh yeah, beat my ass. But those were the times where they would still like leave us at home. Here's a set of keys. It's underneath the rug.
Both of them were working.
Always. Both of them had 2 jobs. When one would leave to work, the other one would be coming back home, preparing the meal, and then going straight to bed. And we had to take care of ourselves. We would go to school ourselves. We would walk ourselves, miles and miles to go to school. And we got to know each other in the neighborhood, all the kids. So we kind of like bonded together. But in hindsight, when I like think about it, all the kids that I grew up around and all my cousins were all gangbangers. All of them. I was just too stupid to realize it. I really was. I was just.
You talk about both your parents working. That is an experience.
It is.
That's part of the immigrant experience. So the whole fact that you are new in the country and you want to basically create a base and or a future for your kids. So both parents, working.
Yep.
That in a way is a big sacrifice of time, energy, and also it leaves some of us left you to your own devices.
So TV helped raise me a lot, and the neighborhood.
What were we watching on TV?
If I could think about it, a lot of back in the. So remember, I grew up Spanish only, so I'm ESL, and Espanol was my number one language. It was
Yeah.
my only language. So a lot of telenovelas, a lot of
María
Maria
Mercedes pa
Carusel. Oh
servir,
shit!
Carrusel de las
All
Américas.
that
All
shit.
that
All
shit.
that
All
shit.
that
I
shit.
used to watch. I used to watch novelas all the time. I used to watch Chespirito. I used to watch, all the stuff that my parents grew up watching.
So basically, living in a weird Mexican bubble in
In LA,
LA.
I was in
LA.
Little Mexico
Little Mexican
in
life.
LA.
And you talk about some of your cousins and other people around you going into the the gangster life and gangbang life. Like, what was the what were the tales that they were in that lifestyle?
Clothing, the way the vernacular, the street vernacular that they would use. I know it's kind of, it's not racist. It's just the way we fucking talk. Like,
Yeah.
hablamos bien diferente, and the way the people they would hang out with, just everything. There was telltale signs that, okay, they're part of a street gang. You could
Yeah.
tell. But I was too young to really realize it. I thought that was just our culture. That's what we did. Until my father was like, "Hey, you can't hang out with fucking Luis. You can't hang out with Daniel. You can't hang out with Mario." I'm like, "Why? They're my fucking cousins, dude. They're my friends." Um, and then when I really truly realized that, hey, these guys are fucking gangsters, is when I used to actually walk out with them at nighttime. And as a kid in LA, technically you're not supposed to be out after a certain time. It's a curfew violation and whatnot. And he would take me out with him because he would have me carrying things for him that I didn't know I was supposed to not carry.
Yeah.
And he would kind of use me that way because if we got hemmed up by the police,
You're a minor.
I was a minor. They didn't really fucking care. I never got caught doing anything stupid that I thought. And then when I started seeing them getting more and more in trouble with the law, I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be hanging out with these guys. That's not what I want to do.
It's a weird space to be in when you're I mean you're a kid. There's a lack of supervision and there's a lot of freedoms, but there's still a parental nucleus there for you that is still kind of beating your ass if you do anything stupid. So you're of an age.
It was more of a reactive parenting than proactive parenting, I guess. Like right now with my kid, I'm completely the difference from night and day difference from how my parents raised me. Not in the moral sense. I'm still instilling the same morals and values that my parents instilled, but
You're trying to fill the gaps that you feel were missed with you, basically.
There was lots of gaps that were missed, and I don't fault my parents for that. It's just that's the way life was.
That's the beginning. Like for me, like going into the United States and starting a life out there, I went up there with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the whole getting there, realizing that whatever you thought you knew was complete bullshit,
Oh, yeah.
and then whatever bases to work and what you have to share and offer might not be as valuable as you thought, and the whole urgency just to work,
Yeah.
and have enough to pay. California's expensive as fuck.
Just to provide.
Just to provide.
Just to provide alone was difficult for my parents, and that's why they were always working.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a constant thing, and I never ever faulted them for it. I didn't know what going to the mall was. I didn't know what going to the park was. With my parents, I would just do things on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that stuff. It was just me kind of on my own.
Yeah.
And as long as I had food in the morning, food in the evening, and I had the keys to the house, and they knew that I was at school, then that's all that mattered. At the end of the day, nothing else mattered.
Now, you grow up in that environment. You skirt the tail of the devil. The devil's around you.
Oh yeah.
What pulls you out of that scenery?
The biggest thing was seeing all my cousins and friends actually falling victim to the whole gang life. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of cousins that are in prison for malicious shit, like straight up murders.
This is the late 90s.
This is now the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
This
rowdy time.
is rowdy times, especially in that area. And I had cousins that I literally grew up with that I have known since I was a baby, and went to school with them, hung out with them. I did everything with them, and just to come to find out that they took one there was a fork in the road. I went one way, they went the other. We were still friends, we were still family, but they would do really crazy shit.
What do you think is the difference between you and them?
Honest to God, to the day, I still don't know. One or two choices, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do this. I'd rather do this, and I didn't get caught up in that one moment.
You know, people talk about some people, you know, having a tendency or having this, you know, predisposition to stuff like that. Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you as far as choices. You know, small choices that kind of add up.
Yep.
You know, I did a lot of stupid shit when I was a kid, and some of these choices led me to where I am now. But it's interesting to see, you know, people with kind of the same family dynamics, same coming from the same family, same nucleuses, but just small choices kind of pulling you to a completely opposite spectrum.
Direction. So I think it's absolute bullshit that people claim, you know, we're predispositioned to do X, Y, and Z. It's in our blood. It's in our stream. It's in the neighborhood you grow up. Because I know a lot of people in my neighborhood that came out very successful, and then I know way more people that are just fucking shitbags in my neighborhood. And they grew up the same way. They were all poor. They all had the same school, the same upbringing, the same, you know, for lack of a better term, moral values that, you know, the Hispanic community instilled in them. It just, they made a few choices that were really shitty, and they got caught. And because of it, they said, fuck the system. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to continue on this path.
Now, that's an interesting observation. You talk about the system and basically somebody getting caught once and it kind of going into a downward spiral instead of like them performing, you know? What is that? Is that a, you know, is that basically, I don't know, the system itself being like a school in a way, you know, people going into the system and them not reforming, but actually getting better at or learning more about how to not get caught.
About how not to get caught. I think the system was and still is kind of broken. There's a lot of cracks. I mean, in this big cog this machine that we're in, we're just a tiny little cog in it. And I don't think the system has our best interest in mind. I think it's more of how the bigger picture, how the machine is going to work and operate. They don't care about how it operates as long as it operates. It definitely is broken because I've seen some really, really good people just make an honest mistake and they're fucked for life.
Yeah, they're taken.
They're tarnished. There's so many things, and I've seen this firsthand as LE because I've arrested people because they did something, and what ended up happening is it just ruined their fucking life, and I feel like shit now.
Again, you skirt that tail. You go in an opposite direction.
Yeah.
You know? Where do you land after trying to basically escaping that faith that some of your people, family members went through?
So at that time, what happened was 9/11. 9/11 had just happened.
That's been a commonality with a few people that have come on. We had a guy named Micah Fink who runs Heroes for Horses. Same thing, 9/11, and you know, for me, it was 9/11 hit and it just fucking put the economy in the toilet here in Tijuana. So I had to look for another job, basically. But in a way, it did affect it. What did 9/11 mean to you when you watched that going on you know, on the TV?
So crazy part about 9/11 was I actually had already joined the Marine Corps. I had already sworn in initially, and I was 17.
What made you go into that career, that path, basically?
So I wanted to join the military because I wanted to get out of the hood. I didn't want to be stuck in the hood.
Did you see as like an exit out of there,
Yes.
like a ticket to travel?
Only, not to travel, just to get the fuck out of where I was. Because all my cousins, again, all my friends, they were just getting caught up in weird shit. It was just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. If I stayed longer, it would have been, okay, fuck it. I'll go out with you guys this time. I can't say no all the time, you know, and then that one time is when I'm going to get caught and I'm going to be put in the fucking system, just like everyone else. So for me, joining military was more of an out than me, I want to join and, you know, serve my country.
It was it was an exit.
It was an exit. And actually 9/11 didn't happen until 7-8 months after I actually signed.
You're inside and, you know, going through the whole process of training, and then you see this event.
Well, it actually happened right before I left at boot camp.
Okay.
So I saw it when I was my senior year. I'm like, oh shit. I'm going to fucking war. Like, I hope not. Like, this is weird. Like, I didn't sign up to go to war. Well, okay, fuck. I guess this is what we're gonna do. Um, and it happened.
Yeah.
It happened. It was a weird transition because I have a lot of friends that signed up because of 9/11.
Yeah.
You know, like tons of friends that signed up because of 9/11.
What do you think that like when you see them and when they were there, what was the motivation for some of these people? Retribution,
Retribution.
a sense of like doing something that mattered.
So if you were you already stateside when all that happened, or were you still over here
When what happened?
when 9/11 happened? Were you back
No,
and forth?
I was back and forth.
Okay, back and forth. One thing that I noticed a lot after 9/11 happened is there was a lot of, um, right now we live in a time where there's a lot of broken up communities, and there's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a lot of bickering and fighting amongst
Tribalism.
a lot of tribalism.
Yeah, trans versus gun community versus guys that are into spiritual practices that are kind of
You
weird.
name it.
Name it.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to be victimized. Or
Correct.
feel like a victim for.
Back then when 9/11 happened, there was so much unity. Like the most ridiculous amount of unity. Everybody was proud to be American. Everybody felt the same. Everybody hugged. Everybody felt sad at the same time, but proud to be here. Everybody wanted to serve.
Yeah.
Rarely would you see people that said, "Oh, fuck that, whatever. We deserved it." Rarely.
Yeah.
Um,
You can say it. You
couldn't.
couldn't say anything.
No,
like
you
that.
couldn't without people looking at you like, "I'm gonna flag something."
Yeah, flags. I remember seeing flags
Yeah.
everywhere. People randomly thanking law enforcement, firefighters, and
Military personnel.
This whole completely, that I saw that from the lens of somebody that was 19.
Yeah.
And seeing that, wow, that this attack brought everybody.
United us. It really did.
And then later on in life, I got to see the whole cancel the police thing, which was pretty interesting as far as a separation of a reality. So you see this reality changing event, and you already signed. So it's like, holy shit!
I have no choice now.
I have no choice now.
Yeah, I'm stuck here.
This what's going through your mind as far as I understand that aspect of having to biting off more than you can chew, kind of. Yep. Mentally, and now everybody's around you looking for retribution, motivated, united,
motivated. They felt compelled to serve their country. Whatever. There's a laundry list of reasons why people join the military, but usually it's those categories. I was already in, so I'm like, okay, cool. What do we do next? At the time, though, so my MOS, my job was actually, I was pogue as fuck. I was assigned to an infantry battalion as their ammo chief. So I was an ammo guy. But at the time, I wasn't in a deployable unit. So all my friends were going overseas. They were either going to Afghanistan or Iraq, and then here I am, like, fuck. When is it my turn? So I kept bugging my command staff, like, hey, I really want to go. I really want to go. I really want to go. And eventually they're like, all right, Gerry or Perez, hey, we'll send you to a unit that's deployable. And they assigned me to the East Coast, and that's when I actually got to deploy with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines.
What's that feeling? What was that feeling like when you're like, well, I'm asking for this. Let me see what's going on. Are you seeing people coming back with experiences?
Yeah.
Are you hearing stories of people coming back?
It's so at the height of, during the first wave of OIF1, it was a lot different than when I went out. When I went out, there was FOBs out there, there's bases, there was all sorts of shit that that was ours. And the initial invasion, there was nothing out there. There's like absolutely nothing. And you've probably talked to a lot of guys that have been there during the first wave, and they were in mob suit the whole fucking time, or they lived in in holes or in their vehicles, in the Humvees. It was really different back then. So the guys that I got to talk to that were part of my unit that got to deploy during the first wave, the way they explained it was way different from what I actually experienced. I guess it was a little bit more cushiony for me, but it still was an interesting experience.
Basically, you were in the U.S. was in a holding pattern when you got to get there. Now you go there. What's the sentiment like as far as the people there?
Most people were scared of us, not in the sense that they thought we were the boogeyman and we were there to take their lives or anything. They knew not to talk to us. They would command would set down a set of rules. Don't be on the road when we're on the road. Make sure you guys fucking clear the path when we're walking through, when we're driving through. Don't congregate in big, locations. Don't have cell phones out, when we're around you. Um, what else? Very few times would like male adults wave at us and say hi. It was usually the little kids that were coming up to us. Give me candy, give me. They're the ones that actually liked us, and then women they weren't even allowed to look at us for the most part.
Now, a weird question.
Yeah.
Somebody like on this side looking at this thing completely externally. Was there any questioning about why you were there, like amongst you guys? I mean, you just experienced a terrorist attack, with a bunch of Saudis and Egyptian people on a plane, and all of a sudden you find yourself invading Afghanistan and Iraq. Was there any outward? I know the sentiment was very like, we're here, this is the mission, we're doing all this stuff. Was there any questioning about the reasoning why you were there?
I think it was more questioning, why the fuck are we in this hole right now when we have a base over here that we could be on? Or, why is this taking so long? What are we doing here? But not necessarily, why are we in Iraq?
The politics of
Yeah,
it.
the politics, we're too young and stupid to really understand, or at least I was, I was, 19, 20 at the time. So I didn't really understand that portion of it. I knew what my command would tell me, and I knew what the news said, and both of those lie all the time. So
What was the news saying?
the news was saying weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. The WMDs, they're baddies. And Saddam was bad. So I mean, I'm not saying he was good. I'm not saying he was good, but
like I'm just trying to understand the the mentality of being young out there, basically in a war fighting stance. And
there was a lot of hurry up and wait. There was, especially for my unit, there was a lot of hurry up. Let's get there. Okay, we're here. We got to gather intel. We got to talk to the locals. Okay, we're gonna have to wait now. There's a lot of that going on. In between the rockets and the mortars and the IEDs, there was a lot of hurry up and wait. So that's when we would question, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Okay, like, can we get on with it? Like, if there's a mission here, let's fucking do it. Okay. It was when idle hands, when we would not do anything.
No, that's the worst.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
that's when we start contemplating things.
That's when you start fucking thinking about things. Sometimes people start thinking about horrible things.
Yeah.
Did you have any? A lot of people talk about what they leave behind when they go out to something like that. Did you have anything going on at home that kind of made you think back on it?
No. I'll be honest. I was very
free.
Free
lucky. Agent.
Free. I was free. The only person that I was kind of worried about was my pops. My mom passed away really young, so my dad was by himself. And yeah, go ahead.
Your mom passed away really young.
Yeah.
How old were you when your mom passed
12.
away?
I was 12 years old.
Did she? Can I ask?
Yeah, you could ask anything. Yeah.
Did she? How'd you leave?
She passed away of lupus. Passed away of lupus.
Was it a process, or was it like a?
So my mother hid it from us for years.
Yeah.
She was very old school, like Mexican. She didn't want to let her husband, the kids know that she had problems.
I understand that.
She kind of hid it from everyone, and we would see her body change and her mood change, and we noticed that she was going to the hospital by herself a lot. And we're like, what the fuck is happening here? And she suffered with it for a few years, and then finally it just hit her to the point where she could not function. Yeah, she could not function at all. She went to. She had some kind of, she went into like either cardiac arrest. I don't remember if it was cardiac arrest because I was too young, or she had some kind of breathing problem. Rushed her to the ER, and then she never left the hospital again. So she was in the hospital for almost 3 months. First few days wasn't on a ventilator, and then the last month and a half, 2 months, she was, she had a tube down her throat. And then she ended up passing away. She ended up passing away of lupus, complications of lupus.
The that's a young age to lose somebody as fundamental and important as your mother.
Yeah.
You talk about being out there and worrying about your father for him, because he's alone.
Yeah.
Um, and also you talk about this kind of detachment and freedom as well.
So for me, again, remember we talked about this. Me joining the military was my out.
Yeah.
It was not only my out from the hood, but it was my out from my pops too.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but sometimes he's very difficult to be around. I think you could relate to stuff like this.
Oh yeah.
The Hispanic community in general can relate to this. Like, we love our parents to death. We'll do anything for them, but
Yeah.
God damn, sometimes
there's a moment when we have to kind of exit.
like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, pops, please leave me alone. And but we also have such an attachment to our parents that, like, I would never put my dad in a fucking home.
No, yeah.
I would.
That's an interesting cultural difference that some of that. I'm not saying all Americans have.
Let's be real, Ed. A lot of white people like to put their parents in homes.
Sending your parents away
Yeah.
to somewhere because they are, hard to
A
deal
burden.
with or manage.
Some kind of burden.
Yeah. It's a remember getting observations of the fact that my dad's pretty old and like I could take care of him.
Yep.
And I've been single for a while, and the observations of women when they learn that I take care of my dad every now and then, and they're like, why don't you put him in?
Yeah.
Why don't you put him in a home? Or like he's at the house.
Yeah.
That how
It's very weird for some people.
Yeah, but this is the way we kind of been raised. That's the culture.
The way I also see it is, Hispanics, they don't kick their kids out of the house. Like,
No.
they just stay here as long as you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
Live with me until you're 40, 50. I don't care. And it kind of works. It's like a circle of life, man. Like,
Yeah.
What-
It's the last remnants of a tribal community or tribal society that we come from. You're out there. Your main worry back home is your dad. The fact that your mom left at an early age and he's like on his own in a way, what brings you back from that?
while I'm out there, or
Like,
just
what brings you
physically.
back? What brings you back from that situation? You're out there,
So
in this, you're saying hold pattern basically.
I was fortunate enough that one of the bases that we would go to from time to time had like calling cards and cell phones or landlines that we could call home. So at least once every other week, I would call and make sure that my pops was good. Writing letters and getting packages from him and me sending shit to him as well. Kind of kept him sane because he wouldn't hear from me for weeks at a time.
Was that like? I mean, it's a latent worry that parents have. You send somebody, and obviously at this time you're seeing the news and the death toll.
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing the death toll numbers just
He started stacking up around that time. Yeah.
not as much as you see them now with suicides.
Yeah, that is true.
But back then,
Yeah.
you would see that and be like, I remember seeing the shift on the news where it was like, invasion successful, we're like holding, and all of a sudden,
Oh, yeah.
did you get to experience some of that?
I got to experience a lot of the ambush part.
Yeah.
Not necessarily direct contact,
Yeah.
because my position was not that of a direct contact, conventional unit. It was more from fob to fob, and during the fob movements is when we would get attacked the most, either via conventional IED with ambushes, or rockets and mortars is what we would get a lot of. So it wasn't per se what like I said, the conventional units would get.
Yeah.
But that shit's fucking scary, dude.
I mean, it's like we don't have a lot of. Well, we started getting some IEDs down here, but not there's no spent or there's no available ordnance laying around everywhere. So that I can't imagine that whole. I wonder if it's going to blow up any moment.
At
They
any
were moving
moment.
around.
One thing that I did, I would think, I was like, look, if I get hit by an IED, I'm gone. Like, I'm not gonna feel fucking shit if it's a direct hit, especially in the truck that I was in. My truck had all the ammunition, all the ordnance.
You were gonna
So if I go boom, I go big boom. I go big boom. So I kind of put that aside a long time ago. I reconciled with myself and what that if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna fucking die. Like I'm not scared to die. I'm scared of what's gonna happen to my family if I die.
Yeah.
But I'm not personally. I'm not scared of death.
You're not afraid of death. You're moving around there in a car full of fucking ammo, waiting for somebody just to set it off, maybe. Is there any plans in your mind of the future? Like, what are you gonna do next? Are you thinking about that, or are you just fucking on autopilot out there?
Autopilot. I was. Let's get to this fob. Let's go there. Let's go talk to these people. Let's get back home before the sun sets. That's it. It was as soon as the sun up. Let's go out there for anywhere between 10 to 12 hours, and then hey, let's make it back before sunset.
The feeling of everything mattering in that war setting, like it matters that you're there. It matters that the people are okay around you. It matters that everybody does their job. Everything matters there. Is that kind of like the general feeling as far as being out there?
It
The responsibility of it, basically.
I guess the way I saw it was you have an obligation to do this. This was your mission.
It's pretty
Meaning,
simple, cut and dry.
it's very cut and dry for me. And for the guys that I was with, hey, you protect my left, you protect my right, I protect the rear. If there's an issue, fucking let me know. And we would do what we needed to do. And when we got back to the fob, that's when we would kind of decompress and talk about either the day or our family or become humans again.
Yeah.
But at the time, no, it's just cut and dry. It was very cut and dry.
The simplicity of it.
We just wanted to keep it simple. We wanted to keep it simple.
When does that end for you, being out there?
Are you talking like actual time frame?
Yeah.
I came back, so I was there during the holidays of 05, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And then I came back first quarter of 2006. I came back. Stateside.
You came back stateside and no more trips out there.
No more trips with military, but I went back out there as a contractor, civilian contractor.
You come back. What is the conversation like as far as contracting out there that you encounter?
So I did get to encounter some of the dudes that were out there doing contract work for either security or doing other logistical shit, because there's a lot to do out there. There's a lot to do, especially on the logistical side. And I got to see some of the figures that they were making. And I said,
what, like in your young Marine mind, what you were making,
pennies compared to what these guys.
Seeing these guys doing what they did,
What we were doing, only
for the private sector.
For the private sector, yeah.
Get a solid paycheck.
And I said, I need to do this. Like at my age, I've already gone out there once. I might as well go out there again.
But for
money.
For money.
I'll do it for money.
For money. I understand that aspect of it, just being out there for a cause or for some sort of, in an official role with the government, but also all these private companies out there basically trying to build infrastructure, move things, create things.
Look, let's be honest. The people that were out there on the private sector were out there for one reason only.
Yeah, fake money.
Make money. They were profiteering off of war. They really were. Now, were they making a difference? Yeah, some of them were definitely making a difference. But there was people out there, this shit's destroyed. This shit's over here. We got to dispose of this. We got to build buildings because you guys destroyed them. Let's go make some money and do it.
Yeah.
Like, why not? And they were doing that. There's a lot of people taking advantage of.
So you went back, got into the private sector, and basically hitched it right back.
And hitched it right back. Yeah, I was working.
What was the difference? In your experience, the difference of you going in that role.
Well, one thing is I wasn't armed the second time. I had people around me that were armed that would protect us. So I went back with the Army Corps of Engineers, and all I did was demolitions. That's all I did. Was I exploded shit all fucking day, man. I'm talking.
What were you setting off, basically?
What were we disposing? Okay, I think I could talk about it now because this was long time ago, and I don't work for them anymore. I won't disclose the company I was working for, but we would dispose of things like actual U.S. ordnance that was in the hands of the Iraqi government that I don't know how it got there, but it got
So
there.
stuff that you would find out there that was like, well,
Confiscated stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So there was times where we would go into these caches, and they looked just like. Hey, do you know what ammunition bunkers look like military ammunition bunkers?
yeah.
Okay, so from a top-down view, satellite view, they just look like hills, right?
Yeah.
So there was just fields of these that we kind of came across, and we had a perimeter set out, that would protect us. And then we had an interior perimeter that would kind of just rove, and then we, as the workers there, would go from, we call them magazine, I guess, ammo caches, whatever you want to call them. Every day we would go to a different one and destroy the ordnance that was in there. So what we would do is collect it, make sure that it was safe to move first. But the shit that we would run into, man, I'm talking like you would look at a box, and on the outside of the box, it would say parts for typewriters. And I'm like, parts of, why are we destroying typewriters? And I'd open it up, and there's hand grenades, and there was fucking all sorts of explosives. I'm like, that's how they got it through the fucking borders, man. Like parts for fucking typewriters. Okay. So we would dispose of shit like that. I found Nazi ammunition, like with Nazi swastika stamps.
Nazi era stuff out
Nazi
there.
era. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, okay. The inside of the bunkers, you would look up and it would say parts for bridges. And it was shit that Saddam would kind of gather from different countries. I don't know how he would get it, but I'm sure there was some.
No, yeah, he definitely had pipelines of weird shit, weird supplies.
Oh,
he was caught with a Glock 18,
Yeah.
with a selector switch on it. So that motherfucker had a catalog somewhere.
He had it. Yeah, he had the easy button. He had the easy button. And so that's what we would do. We would just kind of take control
of some of these found ordinances, and then like in where they were, basically.
No. So what we would do is, because they would still use the buildings for other things, we would make sure that it was safe to remove. We would remove it. We would drive it a few miles down the road. We would C4 detonate most of the explosives. If it was small arms, like actual bullets, we would burn it. We would do a burn. You don't explode actual bullets. You burn them, and then we would drive out at the end of the day, and from far away,
bullets.
we were burning bullets.
Later on, when the ammo shortage just hitting, you're like, fuck.
Think about it to the day. You're an MP5 guy, right? You love MP5s?
I mean, that's one of the firearms that I kind of like have a lot of experience with.
Okay, so this one's gonna kill you.
Oh no! Don't tell me this story.
It was probably 5 times the size of this room. Open up the box, brand new MP5s in plastic still.
Shit.
Brand new in plastic with brand new fucking magazines.
I probably know what that smells like, because I got mine brand new,
still
in packaging with the
still had
with
the grease on it.
Yeah, with the it's not it's not Cosmoline, but it's like it's a different grease that the Germans use, which
still in the packaging. Smelled crazy, looked I'm like, why are we destroying these? Why can't we just take them home? Oh no, these are confiscated. We have to destroy them. We're under contract. Take them out. Give me one. Have one.
Yeah, just have two. You want dual wielding, just have them hanging from your side.
This would have killed you. Yeah, this would have killed you. It was really crazy stuff that we were getting rid of.
So these, I remember seeing some, like, I don't remember the name of this Nazi era. It's basically the ancestor to the AK.
Okay,
basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I've seen some pictures.
It's our. I'll think about it later.
Yeah, but it's basically with the long magazine. It looks like an old school AK.
It's a predecessor to the Cuerno de Chivo.
Yeah. You could say, and I've seen them out there. Yeah. So these munitions and armaments are coming in from everywhere. Probably.
Everywhere, yeah. This guy had hooks everywhere, and it was our job to get rid of it. Unfortunately.
So you're doing. Is it I've found grenades in houses before. And the feeling of it, first off, I remember I've never set one off in training, because that's not the training we got. I set off, flashbangs and smoke grenades, so I knew at least about the mechanics of them, but not actual explosive grenades until later, when we had some crazy fun somewhere. But I remember opening up a drawer somewhere in a house. And just seeing that thing roll. It's like, the feeling of an unknown. You know, you don't know what it is. You know,
You don't know if it's a booby trap.
see this. It's like, wow, that's interesting. I hope that electrical tape holds whatever it's holding correctly. Now, did you have any experience like that where you found these unknown things?
So working with ammunition for 4 years in the military, in the beginning, everything was like, oh shit, it's sensitive. It's like a brand new baby, right? Like, how did your mom treat the firstborn, like with as much care as possible, right? And the third,
I'm the third
your
kid.
third one, you were getting tossed. You're
I'm
like,
the
here's
third kid. I was in the back of the car.
yeah, you're back of the car, no seatbelts on.
No seatbelt.
That's how I treated ammo at the tail end of my career. So we, especially overseas, when you go in and you replace another unit that was in that fob or in that, what the operating zone that we were operating out of, a lot of them would leave caches of ammo. And they go, hey, we don't want to turn this in. Do you guys want extra AT4s and hand grenades and laws? I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, well, you have to inventory them because we're not. We just know that these are all the serial numbers. They're there. Look for them. We're calling it a transfer. I'm like, okay. So I'd go and talk to my, people that I was supposed to talk to, my gunner. Like, hey, they're giving us all this shit. Take it. Sign for it. It's ours. I'm like, cool. So I would.
Yeah, I know.
Just all we need is two.
Just two.
And I would open up drawers, and this is Marines, okay? This is Marines. This is not fucking. These are not Hajis fucking throwing grenades in drawers. These are Marines, the trained Marines. And I open up drawers, and there's just belt-fed fucking ammo there. I'm like, all right, cool, that's easy. Open up another drawer. Oh, hand grenades. Okay, cool. They're just thrown about. Some of them duct tape. Some of them have actual, what's the 1970s happy, or was it 60s or 70s? The Forrest Gump happy face.
60s,
have a
painted on there.
Yeah, it painted on there.
Have a
I'm like,
nice day.
have a nice day on the grenade. I'm like, I actually have a photo of that one. I'll send it to you. We had, 2 or 3 grenades on the other side. We had just caches of shit just thrown about everywhere. C4 lying around, deck cord over here, time fuse over there. I'm like, all right, I got, and it was just thrown about. It looked like a child's playroom, like Legos just thrown about everywhere. And I had to make sure that this all got counted. I had to make sure it was all there. So I guess what I'm getting at is, did I have those oh shit moments? Like, oh shit, I just found something.
You just fucking, that went away.
It went away after I just desensitized completely. I'm like, whatever. I know what's going to make this go off. I played a joke once with one of the companies that I was supplying one day, and because I would go from fob to fob resupplying all the different companies with whatever they needed for the week, but I would do it daily to make sure that they had everything they needed. And I always used to carry a stick of C4 somewhere on my body to fuck with people.
Yeah.
And this is what I would do. I would throw it at them, and they would get fucking scared. Oh, it's gonna blow up. I'm like, no, it takes
how
more.
it works.
It's not how it works, buddy. It's not how it works. And then I actually laid one in a fire once, and I said, oh, it's gonna blow up. I got all scared. I'm like, it takes more than just fire. Like, it'll just melt for the most part.
Yeah, the bomb squad here is basically the army shows up and it throws a rock at it, or it pokes it with a stick, or the fucking just gnarly MG shows up and just grabs it and fucking puts it in a fucking can.
We call that penguin tactics. Okay, like, let's see if he's gonna get eaten for. Oh yeah, it exploded. Okay, we still have a few more guys. I desensitized. I was really desensitized by the way ammunition worked at the end.
Having an experience like that, it changes you probably. I think I heard Jordan Peterson talk about the how going through risky shit like that in your life, and how we had a whole generation of people go out there and do some of that risky shit. How it chemically changes us. How it turns us. You're not the same person walking into that job as you are walking out.
No,
Yeah.
and this is you could take that into a lot of different aspects. So, like, initially I know we're going to touch on it later, but the whole law enforcement thing, I was very slow at first.
Yeah.
And then as the years began, I guess it's almost borderline complacency, but it wasn't complacency. It's more like, I know what's going to happen if I do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, you educate your paranoia as you go.
Yes, you educate
you vocalize it.
That's the best way to put it. You educate the paranoia.
So you're out there blowing up shit, gathering shit so other people don't get blown up, probably. And you're doing this for good pay.
Yeah, very good pay. Lucrative pay, actually.
Lucrative pay. And you're like, Are you considering this as like a long-term job
I
for
did.
yourself
I did.
in your mind?
I did. I was telling
We're gonna be
myself,
out here forever.
dude, I could do this for years. This is easy. This is cool, and they send me wherever I want every 3-4 months, paid ticket. Oh, do you want to go to Dubai? Do you want to go to, you know, Mexico? Do you want to go where do you want to go? We'll send you, paid vacation for, I think it was 30 days. And then you come back and just kill it again.
30 day cycles. 30-day cycles.
30 days.
Yeah.
Well, it was 3 months on and then 30 days off. 3 months on, 30 days off is what it was.
Doable.
Very doable, actually, for the pay. Very doable. And then at the tail end of that, while I was out there, Saddam was caught.
You got the fucker.
They got the fucker.
In
They
a
got him.
hole.
Got him.
They got him. They got him.
The Glock 18, right?
Well, I remember seeing that. The only thing I was interested in was that fucking selector switch on that Glock.
Have you ever shot an 18?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not safe.
No.
Not safe at all. Somebody here decided it's a good idea to get some for armored vehicle drivers, which is a stupid idea.
Out here?
No, and also selector switches are everywhere down here. Black market and open market. You would find them in places. Those the ones you put in the back.
Yep.
Which, they work a few times and then
The 3-year printer ones, you mean, right?
no, like we would find these things that you would install on the back of the
So
Glocks.
the back plate of the slide, right?
the
Yeah.
back plate, and it had a little selector switch that goes from side to
I
side,
like that.
and you would find those. And think about people finding weapons in Mexico when you're cops in the military. You'd find something with a sight on it or with some sort of accessory, and every now and then I would, some of our guys would take like a selector or some shit like that off a Glock like that.
It's for science.
It's for science.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, somewhere you'd be in a gun range and it's like RoboCop, It's like, what the fuck is that? And then they would go to the armory because they fucked up something on that gun because that gun is not made to shoot like that. He gets caught. I remember seeing that on the news. This guy on the ground, looking up. Is that a feeling of like mission accomplished, basically?
No, it was a feeling of I need to get the fuck out of this country
Because
it's gonna fucking internally explode. Yeah. I'm like, I need to get the fuck out because there's gonna be factions fighting amongst each other. People are gonna try to get him. It just shit's gonna fall apart. I just knew it, and it's crazy because I was working with a bunch of like Iraqi working parties. It's basically a bunch of military aged Iraqis that would get hired by us, and they would screen them. I don't know how they would screen them, but they would screen them, and they were our working party out there. So if we needed to move anything heavy, like laborious, we would use them. And we had one Terp with him at all times. It kind of spoke broken English, enough broken English to get by, kind of like my dad, just to get by. And he would be our conduit for the guys. And when Saddam got caught, I asked him, I was like, hey,
what do you think?
What do you think, dude? Like, what's your sentiment here? Where do you have a horse in this race? He's like, fuck Saddam. I'm like, okay. I'm like, oh, what about your other guys? He's like, no, some of them, no fuck Saddam. I'm like, oh, okay.
Some of them missed them, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'm glad I pulled you off to the side. I go, should we? And he goes, you okay? I'm like, I don't have a warm fight. No,
it doesn't sound like okay.
No, that didn't really sound okay. I'm like, I go now. I go. So I decided to come back after that. Not because I was scared of anything. It's just I think
it was like it felt like a finale, like a good moment to just bow out.
It was a good moment to bow out. It was a turning point in my life. Another chapter. And I always knew. Remember, I always knew at a very early. I actually didn't touch on this, but at a very very early age, I kind of knew I wanted to be a cop.
Was that like something always in the back of your mind?
Always, back of my mind. Always, since I was a kid. Always.
Now, what aspects of being a cop? Well, I mean, you're a kid, right?
Yes.
I on the other hand, never wanted to be a cop. Fuck the police. Puercos, they would fucking grab me and fucking break my. They fucking took my skateboard once. They beat the shit out of me once at a concert. Again, police down here very different. So yeah, never in my fucking wildest dreams that I want to fucking be a cop. But you, as a kid, now what experience or like what imagery that you have in your mind as far as cops?
So I did see a lot of the craziness on TV back in the day, and then, like I said, I grew up with some cousins and friends and family that just were not on the right side of the tracks. So I did see them in and out, in and out, and I would try to avoid that as much as I could. And I think that was the catalyst, was seeing them constantly get in trouble by the cops. That I said, I don't want to do that. And then there was a few times where I had very positive interactions with cops, and they told me, "I think this is what I want to do. I think this is what I want to do."
Like you're a kid in that area. What positive interactions did you have? Like can you like talk? For me. That's interesting that you had a positive interaction with police. Well, again,
Yeah, you're right.
what positive interactions did you get that made you say, you know what, I want to be one of you guys?
I love the way you put it. I'm starting to fucking rethink my life, Ed. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is it feels like we're on mushrooms here home sometimes. So
I cannot, for the life of me, give you one example, but I know I had some kind of positive interaction that led me to say, this is what I want to do. Just don't remember it. I really don't remember it right now.
You come back from that experience. I imagine you have you have a pretty solid experience base now that you think is going to transfer to law enforcement. I guess like a lot of people coming out of the military, what do you do?
Yeah.
Come out of the military, come out of contracting. What do you do? Law enforcement.
Law enforcement or fire, something like that. For me, it was the law enforcement side, again, because that's something that I'd always thought about as a child. I tried the college thing for a little bit, and
what did you try?
University of Phoenix, man. I mean,
what career path did you have in mind?
I want to say it was right in line with law enforcement's criminal justice or something like that. Yeah, it was criminal justice, and I'm not a college guy, man. I'm not a school guy.
I get it.
I like what I like, and I excel at what I like.
Yeah.
Because it piques my interest. It's like boop, activation, it's on, and I'm learning. But if it's something that, and it's, even if it's challenging, but if it's something where it's not interesting, and it's not that I'm stupid,
you have a hyper
squirrel.
Fucking have a hyper attention deficit disorder or some shit.
That's
most of us.
Like most of us do. Yeah. So I just can't do your conventional, school route. That doesn't mean I was like in high school. I was actually a really good student, and I stayed out of trouble for the most part. But it was so boring.
Yeah.
It was just boring. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to.
Specifically coming out of a place where you were, doing shit somewhere, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a place where, no, you're not doing anything of that. All that adrenaline dump you were getting, and all that, stimulation, is gone.
Yep.
Sit down and let's talk about the criminal justice system.
I was bored out of my mind, absolutely fucking bored, and I just couldn't do it. And this was something I tried for. Literally, I gave up really fast, like maybe 2-3 months, and I gave up. I'm like, this is not for me. It's not. It's just going to be a big waste of time for everyone. So I applied, and I had a secret clearance and a very short work history. I had military contract work, and that's it. At the time, it was also a time when the chief that was sitting in, it was Branton, was doing a mass hiring.
Yeah. He was, I can imagine he was seeing a lot of people that are coming out of that experience and like, oh, this is the
opportunity.
time.
Yeah, it could be an opportunity. But not only that, I know at the time, LAPD was having trouble, and a lot of it had to do with manpower.
Yeah.
They didn't have the manpower. And one of the things that he, I guess, vowed was that he was going to bolster the numbers, the patrol numbers. So I was part of that mass hiring exodus.
But what's a hiring process like?
So back then it was backgrounds, it was polygraph, it was
polygraph.
I've had a few of those.
I used to get polygraphed every year or every 6 months, and I had to go through an FBI polygraph test to get access to shit.
That was out here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been through a lot of them, and I've saw a lot of people go through them, and a lot of them pass it, and then turns out they're fucking horrible people.
So what? So they pass it because they know how to control their body?
Nah, they passed it because they knew that polygraphs are basically looking for admissions.
Yeah.
And when I got to go through some of the polygraphist training here, and I just got to, there was a thing they would do. They would sit you down for the polygraph exam. They put the pucker thing and the finger and chest.
Oh yeah. They put it on your butt too.
Yeah, they're a donut.
A donut, yeah.
Right.
Hemo donut.
And they would put 10 cards in front of you.
Okay.
And I remember they did this to me, and I was like fucking mind blown. Then I learned a trick. So they would put 10 cards in front of you. Sit down, and they'd say, "Well, you're gonna look at one of those cards. You open up one of those cards, and it's like a 7. And put it down. I'm gonna ask you if you pick card number 1, card number 2, card number 3. Even if I ask you the card you picked, say no. All right. So card number 1, no. Card number 2, no. Card number 3, card number 7, no. Okay. And then the polygraph said, "Oh, well, it was a number 7 card." Holy shit! How'd you know? Oh, my equipment works. They're all number 7 cards. So. It was. I remember seeing that trick, and I was like, "Mother." So you get a polygraph, background check. What's the training process like? And I asked about the training process because you're coming off experience, and I imagine there's some like, fuck, man, I have to go through this process.
I'm a boot again. I'm a fucking green bota again. So back to the hiring process though, it was very streamlined for me. So it took me about 3 to 4 months to get hired. Typically, it takes about a year,
Okay.
not more, depending on your background. So I got hired really fast, really quickly. Matter of fact, when they called me and they said, "Hey, do you, congratulations, we've accepted you. Do you want to come to the academy?" It was a week before the academy date because
Okay.
somebody dropped out. And typically, they give you a month to prepare. They didn't give me shit. They're like, yeah, can you start in less than a week? I'm like, yeah. So I quit my job at the time.
Where you work? What were you doing?
Home Depot, bruh.
Fucking A.
I was working at Home Depot. Yeah. I was working for Home Depot for 2 days. And then I quit.
Enough. That's
That
enough.
was enough for me. Similar to college. Home Depot, college, same thing.
Yeah.
So I had to quit because I had told them, "Hey, I'm in the process. So this is kind of a temp job." Like, yeah, we just need a temp anyways. I was very temp. 2 days temp.
2 days.
2 days temp. Got hired. The process. So the academy. Back to what you said.
Yeah.
Coming from a military boot camp, especially like the Marine Corps, where it's very active, a lot of physically grueling things. The physical portion was very simple.
Yeah.
They don't expect a ton, which is actually a shame, if you ask me.
What were the
Fitness standards?
Yeah, what are the fitness standards?
Don't be a fat slob, I guess.
Like how many pull-ups?
There's none.
Holy shit.
None.
We had to do 10. We had to do fucking 10.
Now pull-ups were a plus, though. If you did pull-ups, it would kind of help, your resume look a lot better, but it was not
just
a
a resume one.
It wasn't a
How many?
requirement. Push-ups were a thing.
lagartijas?
It was push-ups with your fists, so your partner would have to, fist push. It's similar to the Army,
Yeah.
Army standard. I want to say it was like 11 was the minimal, and the max was
Damn, I should have gone.
55 maybe.
I should have gone over there instead.
Yeah, right. 11 minimum, 55 most. And now I'm kind of throwing numbers that I remember. I'm not.
Yeah.
Don't quote me, people. I don't remember if it's exactly that. Sit-ups was another one, and then running was the biggest thing. We need to run.
Yeah,
So
you need to run. Yeah.
we would always run. We would run all the time. So as long as your cardio was okay, you were fine. And then there was O courses, like you would do different obstacle courses. Those were fun, and those were pass or fail in the academy, supposedly. But I've seen people who couldn't even fucking jump the fence and they fucking passed. So
Just walk around.
just
it,
walk.
walk
Yeah,
around.
right. I'm the smart one. I'm gonna walk around it.
How long is this academy?
LAPD Academy specifically at the time was, I want to say 7 or 7.5 months. So it's Monday through Friday, normal business hours, very early. You get off around 4 o'clock.
Are you? It's not an internment thing, right? You're just going there, doing your day of training and leaving every day.
Yeah, leaving every day. You don't house there. It's not internment. No, you have the weekends off. You get paid to be there. Like this is a job.
This
The
is a job.
Academy is a job. However, I was a hermit crab during that time.
What do you mean?
I didn't go out. I didn't hang out with friends.
You were just
I
fucking.
was at home or I was at the academy.
What are we doing at home? We're just fucking meditating in front of a fucking statue of like
This one right here, actually.
what were you doing at home?
Most
Just
of the time,
brooding like Batman.
a lot of push-ups and pull-ups. That's what
We
we were
just
doing.
tried working on that.
So,
That's
so
working on.
yeah, I would work out on my physical stuff, but most of the time I spent studying because I'm a dumbass.
Yeah.
I have to study. I'm not a type of person that'll learn something, and I'll see it and go, I know it already. I have to study.
Yeah.
Have to study. So specifically anything that has to do with testing. If there's a test put in front of me, like an actual written test, I have to study.
You have to study
I
that
have
shit.
to study. I have to study. So all the learning domains that we had to do, I spent them studying on the weekends, doing physical stuff. I just wouldn't go out. I didn't want to get caught because I knew all these horror stories.
So which hand was the strongest at this time? Because if you're a hermit crab, which is this one or which is that one?
Well, this one was more for you know the what is it called? We put it to sleep.
Yeah, the stranger.
The stranger. Yeah, the left
stranger.
one was the stranger.
The
The right one
stranger.
was very strong.
Was it a moment of chosen celibacy during that period, or were you trying to figure shit out?
So I already had a girlfriend at the time, and sorry, but I kind of used her as a teacher. Like she would be the one that would do the flashcards for me. She did all the organization stuff for me, and then once I graduated boot camp, I kind of dumped her.
Oh no!
So it's really bad.
It's okay. It's okay though. Like people come in and out of our lives.
I needed kind of clarity at the time. I wanted to focus on law enforcement, and I didn't want to have that outside, the thing. She wasn't a thing, but the relationship kind of being on the back of my mind, especially so young in my career.
Yeah. How old are you when you were going through this academy?
21, almost 22.
Fuck.
21, almost 22.
That's the same age as I was going through that shit. You're adapting to this new role, law enforcement, and also it's a weird one because now you're basically back home. It's like some shit you have to do now back home.
Yeah, it was.
Are you getting any shit from from some of that family that around you?
So
that you grew up with?
So by then, because that was one of the questions that was hitting my background was like,
do you have
any
family members that did some shit?
Do you have any family members that are in the AMA or any family members that are gang members? Do you have any family members that are rapists? Do you love your mother? Are you in love with your mother? Type shit.
Yeah.
I had to disclose all that, and they're like, all right, well, do you still communicate with them? I'm like, absolutely not. Well, what's their names? Okay, date of birth. Like, I don't remember. Where are they being held? Okay, that I do know. I found out through the grapevine that they weren't necessarily proud of me, but they weren't.
It wasn't like this motherfucker.
No. It was actually quite the opposite. It was more like, all right, cool. You're not in this lifestyle, and good for you, but don't talk to me.
Yeah.
And remember, these are family members that are committed multiple murders, and they're looking at death row type shit.
Yeah.
And this was all in my hometown.
Well, what was your dad saying about your process?
So he absolutely hated it too.
Why?
Well, because I went from one thing that was dangerous to another thing that was dangerous to another thing that's going to be.
It's not only dangerous, but it's also really close by.
Very close by. So it's not like you go in spurts of danger. In the military, you're not in constant danger.
You go out, do your shit, and then you come back.
Very dangerous out there. Not so much over here.
And here it's like you're going out there every day to
pretty much every day is like, what's going to fucking happen? Now, the level of intensity of danger is not the same, obviously. I'm not in gunfights constantly out in the streets.
Yeah, but it's like there's shit going on out there. People get shot in the face on the traffic stop. You showing up somewhere and not even knowing, and the dude walks up behind you and just fucking shoots your shit.
The easiest way I put it is to people, and I was having this conversation with a bunch of young cats that go to my jiu-jitsu gym because they just got out of the military too, and they want to do law enforcement. I'm kind of like mentoring them and helping them. One of them just got accepted to LAPD actually, and I think he starts like in a month. And he was asking me questions like, "Well, what's the difference between there and here?" And I couldn't give him a definitive answer, but the one thing I did tell him was, out there, you kind of know who the enemy is, and you kind of know what direction to point the guns, and you know people in uniform and whatnot. Out here, you have no fucking idea who's who in the zoo. It could be grandma, it could be fucking grandpa, it could be a domestic violence call that you go to that you think you're to help, and it's the boyfriend or the girlfriend that's shooting you, or it's so weird.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Your dad hated your job. Just my mom hated my choice in that. Like most of my friends stopped talking to me.
Yeah.
I had a lot of my friends were like fucking punk, skateboarding kids.
Fucking sell out.
There's a song by Dos Minutos, just like a South American punk band, and it goes, Carlos se vendió al barrio de la luz, el barrio que lo vio crecer.
Is that your theme song now when you wake up?
That's my theme song. It was basically a song about a dude that sold out and went to work for the fucking police.
Okay.
And then they say there's a chorus in that song where una bala en la calle espera por él. Like a bullet is waiting for you in the street.
Okay.
And they would fucking say that shit
Wow.
to me.
Okay. Yeah. With friends like those.
Well, we were young and stupid, and you grow out of people like that, I guess.
Funny you say that, because everyone that I went to high school with that I considered my friends, in the military, I kind of stayed in contact with them, especially when I would come home, and visit family. We would all hang out. We'd go and do shit, debauchery left and right. And then as soon as I joined law enforcement, they all just stopped talking to me.
Yeah,
and it's not because they considered me a sellout or, like Carlitos or whatnot. It was more because we had completely grown apart, and there's
nothing to talk about.
Nothing to talk about. How's your dad? Good. How's yours? Cool.
All
right. See you in 10 years again. Like there was nothing there was no common ground. There was none. There was no, it's not that we disliked each other. It's just no common ground. There's nothing to talk about.
You go through the LAPD training program, 7 months.
About 7 months, yeah.
What's your first day on the street like? Uniformed patrol on the street.
Really good story.
Okay, let's hear this first day.
My probationary period. You spend a year at a set division. We call them divisions, or on the East Coast they call them precincts or whatever they call them.
You're in your probationary division.
Probationary division. It's Southwest, which is you seen the movie Training Day?
Yeah, I have.
So it's you remember the cul-de-sac area? That's the area that I'm working. King and Crenshaw, off of the 110 freeway. The King exit. And first day on probation, wear my Class A uniform, long sleeve tie, clip-on tie, of course.
You don't want to get strangled.
No, I don't want to get strangled with that bitch. And here I am, green as fuck, shaved head. And the first call we get, I forget the name of my unit. It's irrelevant. Man breaking glass and windows, completely nude. I'm like, what's happening here? My training officer looks over at me and he goes, have you ever dealt with PCP? PC who? I'm like, what? Oh, you haven't?
Yeah.
I'm like, not in person, sir. I go, just what they taught us in the academy. Oh, you're going to have a good time.
Super powered.
Yeah, super powered. He goes, do you have your gloves? I go, I do, sir. And I start throwing on my leather gloves. And he goes, no, not your leather gloves. Protection gloves. Like
for fluids.
For fluids, yeah. From, bloodborne pathogens. I'm like, oh, yeah, I took that class too.
Let's put on that shit.
Put them on. He goes, you have extras, right? I go, yeah. He goes, those might rip. So put another set on. Another set. I'm like, what the fuck am I getting into? And, I get on the radio. I go, show's responding. And the dispatch is giving us updates as we're going code 3. The man is now breaking, windows with his head. I'm like, what is happening here? Just head-butting cars. Left elbow, right elbow, and all over. And we hear other units, show us responding. I'm like, oh, cool, we have backup, cool. Like, how much do we need for one fucking person?
One naked motherfucking guy.
There's two of us, We get there, and dude was fucking shroomed out, man. He was on a fucking good one. And he was just breaking windows, talking to himself, throwing fucking gang signs up to God and shit. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is crazy. He goes, hey, get the beanbag. I'm like, all right, cool.
Beanbag around the fucker.
I'm like, all right, cool. I'm ready, dude. First day on the job. I'm going to fucking shoot somebody with less lethal. I'm like, this is fucking awesome, dude. This is what I signed up for.
Just don't shoot him in the head.
Just don't shoot him in the eyes, in the face, in the
No,
head.
no, no,
Not in the crotch. Not the
none of
crotch. Yeah. Nothing in this area.
Nothing here.
Nothing
If you
here.
can.
Another story for another day, actually. I'm going to tell you about that one, too.
We got when we were active, we got beanbag rounds. We did not get that warning.
Okay, yeah. Don't shoot him in the face. I'm like,
No,
that's
not
the best place to shoot him.
the place to shoot him. Like, yeah, the dude with the beanbag coming out of his eyeball. So
yeah.
you have the beanbag round.
We got the beanbag. I'm
You're
ready.
new. You're like, this motherfucker, this avatar motherfucker.
Yeah.
Is like
doing all sorts of fucking funky shit, dude. He's dancing. He's doing the dance, and he's still breaking windows. I'm like, fuck, all right, we got to do something about this guy. And everybody shows up, and we're like, hey, sir. I'm a fucking dumb. Sir, butt ass naked. Hey, sir, with your dong out. Can you turn around, please? He looks at me, and he's like, whoop, and he starts fucking running. I'm like,
Damn.
Fuck. And this guy was well endowed, too.
Oh, okay. So you
Fucking everywhere. I'm like, all right, dude. I'm
Mr.
like,
Snuffleupagus there running around.
he's running, and he runs up to this tree. He starts fucking climbing the tree.
This motherfucker is naked, climbing a tree now.
Climbing a tree.
And this is you're trying to figure out your first experience out there.
I'm still trying
enforcing the law.
Still trying to figure out if, where Jesus is. And here I am fucking chasing a naked guy. And this wasn't just a normal tree. This tree had fucking like tree bark that was sharp and jagged.
Yeah, pointed out of it.
I'm like, ugh. There's branches. I'm sorry, not branches, roots that were uprooted because this is, South Central, and the cement was all undone and the roots were fucking everywhere. Like the tree beat the cement. And he's climbing up this fucking tree. And he's probably a good like 10 feet up. Fuck, like how did he get up there so fast? And here I'm running with all my gear. I'm like, okay, sir, get down. And he's not listening. And he's touching the leaves. And all he's saying is this: green, 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 green. That's all he was saying. Green, green. As he's touching.
He's fine.
He's touching. He's focused on green. He's just touching the leaves. Green, 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 green.
He's the vegetarian now.
He's probably a vegetarian. Green, 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 green. And we're like, okay, what do we do? And I'm about to beanbag him, and my TO looks at me and goes, don't you fucking beanbag him. If you shoot him and he falls, it's on us. Yeah. I'm like, darn. Okay. I'm like, what do we do then? Let's just try to talk to him. And at this point, the whole division's there now.
Trying to negotiate.
We're all trying. Yeah, we had to call a fucking negotiator. And another guy's like, I have a taser. I'll tase him. I was like, it's the same as me.
It's the same thing. It's gonna fall and just smash his head.
Smash his head. I'm like, all right. And he's focused on green. Green, 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 green. One of the guys there goes, hey, bud, there's some green down here. And he's pointing at the grass. And the guy stopped.
Holy shit, more
like green. Green. And he fucking threw himself off the tree. Bam. People bounce, by the way.
Yeah, people bounce.
Yeah, people bounce.
Bouncy people.
Bouncy people. This little fucking flesh pod just boom, bounced. And he just started touching the grass. Well, on the way down, one of those uprooted.
Oh, no.
He landed where the inside of his leg, like the thigh area, was just completely open.
Ooh.
It looked like those pictures that you show during counter custody.
Yeah.
Where it's
sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, no, I love them.
The flail open.
Flail open. Yeah. It was an exact replica photo of that where you could see the yellow tissue, the fatty tissue. I was able to see a little bit of bone. And the guy tried to prop himself up because he's fucking high as fuck on PCP. So what do good little cops do? We just start dogpiling on top of him. Pop, 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 to pin him down. And then we end up getting a hobble. We have to hobble him because he's just like fucking ridiculously strong. And this guy probably weighed a good $130, $140.
But he's slippery. He's fucking naked.
Slippery,
all
naked.
The advantages. Lightweight.
You remember Family Guy? You're never gonna catch me.
Yeah, the naked guy.
The naked
covered in oil.
Yeah, covered in oil. That was him. Only it wasn't oil; it was blood and sweat and whatever fecal matter he had on him. And here we are, dogpiling on top of him. We finally take him into custody. FD paramedics are standing by because they never come in until we clear the scene. They come in. And we're like, what are we gonna do with this guy? We throw him on the gurney, and again, I'm the probationer, so. The ambulance looks at us and goes, well, somebody needs to ride in the back with us. And my TO goes, well, kid, jump the fuck in. Fuck. I'm like, can I take the beanbag? Like,
nah.
I can't take the beanbag. So we cuff him onto the gurney, and he's still green. And he's bleeding. So they had to kind of like tourniquet him up or whatever it was that they were using. I know paramedics don't like to use tourniquets.
It's like but it's probably an elastic band.
It's like an elastic band, more thing, something to stop the bleed. And then they sedate him on the drive there because he was just going bonkers. That was day one.
That's fucking chasing a naked guy that flailed his fucking leg open on PCP. That's LA. That's LA.
That's And it's more and more common these days, actually.
Wow.
When I say more and more common, I mean the drug use, the 5150, the whole batshit crazy, combative people.
The fentanyl, and not only the fentanyl, but also the psychiatric issues that some of that shit causes some people, or also the fact that some people are already psychiatric and they're just out on the street. This period of time, you are working in LA now as a cop. What's the public sentiment at that time around police?
So I'm just going to say it. I worked in an area where the police were not liked. They weren't liked very much. Working in South Central, it was particularly in the areas that I was working in, were either Black in descent or Hispanic, like either Mexican, Salvadorian, or a mixture of either one. Most people there were just hardworking people. They just wanted to work. But the people that we had to deal with were not that. Yeah. It's not like I was dealing with hardworking people. I was dealing with criminals.
What was most of your calls about?
If it was radio calls, it was mostly burglaries, auto thefts. We would get some like rape investigation, a lot of rape investigations in that area for some reason. But a lot of the observation work, like the actual pedestrian stops and vehicle stops, were all gang
related.
All gang related. Guns, money, dope, trafficking of certain items.
Now, at that time, what was the drug on the street like? Was it probably meth and a few other?
So meth was coming up big. Heroin, not so much in the area that I was in. The area that I was in, it was big on PCP. Believe it or not, still PCP. A lot of vials.
There's some chemist out there fucking making bank, basically.
Making bank off of tiny little fucking vials. So a lot of cigarettes were dipped, and they would sell them as individual cigarettes too.
Would they mark them?
They would. The way you could see them is when they would lift them, they had a different discoloration, and they knew. Or they would have them flipped upside down, and they knew the upside down ones were the good ones, and the other ones were the laced ones.
They used to do that here too. Yeah. Where you would get a packet. And they would say the flipped one was for the saint. Yeah. But to talk to the saint.
To talk to the saint. Yeah.
Like what's up with that reverse one? Yeah. It's to talk to the saints. Yeah. I didn't know what that meant till somebody fucking smoked one of those and went to talk to somebody, I guess.
Well, I didn't realize that either until because I started working with a narco expert when I was on probation, and that's what he was telling me.
Yeah.
All the little small details look for, but a lot of it was drug, and the drugs that were there were, like I said, PCP, a lot of crack cocaine,
a
lot of crack cocaine, and it was usually sales distribution of crack cocaine.
What did it look like up there? Like down here, it looked like almost like dried cheese squares.
So
like
we would get a mixture of not the brownish stuff. So the brownish stuff was more down this way, I guess.
Yeah.
We would get the off-white. Some of it looked like blue cheese almost.
Yeah.
Very, very crumbly. And then we also had the off-white hard rock. And it was always, for the most part, in tiny little baggies that were rolled up, transparent baggies.
Yeah. Here we had globals. They would just put them in a piece of plastic, and then just with a lighter, they would heat them to like a single dose, and they would call them globals, and they would just, would arrive, and they would just fucking toss.
Are you talking about like in the liquor stores, they sell the tiny little fake flowers in the little pipe? Yeah. They would never, so the dealers there would never sell any of the paraphernalia. They would only sell the actual product.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get caught with both.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get caught with both. And it was usually, for the dealers, the gang members, the dealers, it was in areas of their body that I didn't want to get into anyways, but as a trainee, I had to.
Yeah.
So
En la cazuela.
in la cazuela, the prison wallet.
La cazuela, we would say like, te revisan la cazuela. Like, ¿la cajuela?
No,
No,
la
la cazuela.
cazuela.
What do you mean la cazuela? Donde le estrellan los huevos. You know, where the eggs get cracked, basically between the anus and the balls. That's the cazuela, you know?
So we had guys that would do it there. We had guys that were actual in the anus itself. We had guys in the mouth. A lot of them in the mouth.
Yeah, and there's a thought that a lot of people have. If you make them squat, they'll drop everything they have. There's some people that have some fucking control.
They're tight.
There's see.
Yeah.
You know? I remember this guy we caught once nearby. We're actually nearby one of the major sales points of fucking narcotics here in Tijuana. We caught this guy, skinny dude. Motherfucker was like, you know, some of those guys that are just like, I thought he was naturally just fucking ripped. You know, he had this, you know, 6-pack on him.
Cum gutters. They're called cum gutters.
This motherfucker, he had some shit on him. You know, we knew he had cash and coins, you know, so that motherfucker was dealing somewhere.
Okay.
We thought he might dipped it somewhere. So we put him in holding. He starts doing, you know.
Yeah.
He's not dropping anything. And I keep looking at him. And remember the movie, The Hulk, the first one, where they had
Edward Norton?
Edward Norton, where he was training with this Gracie guy.
Yeah.
And he was doing
The breathing technique.
the breathing technique.
Yeah,
All this-
which is real, by the way.
which is real.
Yeah.
The same thing, but there was some sort of attachment to he was like a chicken that was about to lay an egg.
Okay.
I could see
Prairie dogging down there.
I was seeing his clown eye, you know, his the star of 1,000
I
points.
think a few times.
The
like the anime?
the baloney knot.
Oh, the
you know?
baloney knot. I like
I was
that.
seeing it. I was like, this motherfucker's holding something in there. And like, I wasn't new back then, you know, I had new people there. So I said, hey, new guy, you're a paramedic, right? Yeah. What's going on? And I remember like it was a piece of dental floss that came out just a little bit. And it was like a magic trick. It's just, I think we found something. We were holding him now and it started. And just finally found this giant sausage made out of, you know, something. You know, I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it's probably a lot of meth, probably. But yeah, that what we have to give up as far as boundaries, personal boundaries, as far as what we are able to do or what we think we are capable of doing.
So capable of doing and able to do, or even willing to do it, for us at least, was a little bit different than maybe you guys out here.
Yeah, we didn't. Nobody gave a shit.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't do cavity searches. We could do, you know, some form of pat down frisk search. And if it led to something, because we based off training experience, and yes. But typically, and it wasn't the dealers that we caught with the dope. It was the runners that we would catch with the dope. So, you know, the hook would bring them in, and then they would go and get the dope from someone else, and they would leave the money in another location, and then the dealer would give them
Yeah, they
just a little bit of
did the
dope.
whole detachment thing.
Exactly. So there was like a line. But from time to time, we would find the dealers with the larger bodies of
Now, like, who's
dope.
back then? Who's running it? Like you're basically attacking distribution.
So there was a lot of rumors back then.
Yeah.
And after I got to know you and I got to know some of the other people, those rumors were like, oh shit, this must be true.
Must be where it comes
So
from.
there was a lot of because at the time, especially like the PCP stuff, we caught some of the guys that were actually making PCP out of their own backyards, and, trailers.
That's some chemist somewhere.
Some chemists, yeah. And then the meth we knew was coming from down south. We just didn't know from where.
What did it look like? You know, like
Very like think of crystallized salt.
Yeah.
But it was a lot longer.
Yeah, it was a shard in shard form. It was probably made somewhere in the east side of the city.
And that's what we were thinking too, because that's what our people would tell us. Hey, this is coming from people that were transporting it from down south. I'm like, down south where? And,
Yeah,
you know, like like the beach. Like no. Like down south.
Yeah,
I'm
down
like,
south.
Oh, okay. And then we did have a lot of like I know some of the tar that was brought in. It was very rare. That was actual, from Mexico.
Was it the basically it looked like tamarind?
Yes.
The stinky tamarind.
So the brown tar, yeah.
Yeah.
It
So
looked like that, yeah.
yeah, and the connection there. I think from back then we would see people bring it from places like Michoacan and some of the clandestine laboratories you would have in Sinaloa and other parts of the country, even in Tijuana itself, where you would get these high quality shard meth crystals, and they would be brought here. And there's a reason why there's a lot of body shops in Tijuana, and it's not because of the cheapness of it, but because this is where a lot of the cards get
Yeah.
loaded.
Yeah.
And anybody that has a need for money, you would have kids that wanted to have some cash, and they would load up a car. And if they had somebody that would regularly cross into the United States and had like an excuse for it, they would kind of use that. Or sometimes they would use these, blind meals. Basically,
Yeah.
they would load. Hey, your mother crosses to the U.S. every day to work in San Diego. Oh, cool. And they would load up her car without her knowing.
Without her
They would
knowing.
have, and that's. I remember some of my interactions with law enforcement in the U.S. when I would go out there, or where they would do cross training and stuff like that, and just sharing pictures of some of the stuff we would find down here. It's like, oh, that's where it comes from, or this is the same shit that we're finding up there. You're working in this. It's an interesting. For me, it's the similarities of LA as a city and Tijuana,
Mm-hmm.
as far as how it's so diverse. I remember going to Los Angeles probably in 2008. 2008, 2009. Was it? 2008 or 2009, I think.
I was working a specialized unit by then. I was off probation 2008, 2009.
Yeah, and then going up there now.
Do you remember what area?
I mean, I remember being we were up there with doing a protection detail for a governor. So I remember being around
Consulate or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also we would go in and out of the airport, LAX, and drive around some of the areas around there, which were interesting. But I remember the change of it as far as it is now. The mass amount of homeless people just everywhere, kind of camping out and being on fentanyl. That's basically is the going kind of like the drug. When you were out there doing that, when you talk about being in a specialized unit, did you get to witness that that kind of change in the environment as far as more homeless people showing up, more permissive laws being put into place, and politics being put into place? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. When especially working LAPD, when people and cops and anyone in general would talk about homelessness, we would always think of one place, downtown LA.
Yeah,
that's
where they hang
it's
out.
Skid Row. Everyone hangs out there, all the homeless. So did we have homelessness in the areas that we worked? Yeah, but it was mostly just like a few crackheads here and there. It wasn't like encampments of homelessness like you see now. So whenever we did have like homeless people roaming around doing stuff, we would either get them help or we would get them out of there.
Yeah,
Mostly get them out of there.
You had
We had pockets of small little pockets,
but you could get them out of there.
Yeah,
basically,
we'd get them out of there. Yeah.
Was there
the process, like what the process was like?
Yeah,
it was
back then.
It was like
somebody squatting in front of my business and like, hey, dude, there's a guy outside my business and he's peeing at the door. And
we would be able to get them for a number of things, and usually they were doing that because they wanted a hot in a cot.
Yeah.
They're like, fuck it, take me to jail. I don't care. Like, I want a house. I want somewhere to sleep tonight, and I want a fucking hot meal. So we would book them, and we'd take them if we had to. Like, usually if they were be like a big nuisance, especially to, because quality of life for the citizens there was like the number one thing.
Yeah.
Especially with homelessness. Now it's way different.
Yeah.
Now it's like they have the right to be there.
Did you get to experience that change when it, as far as them?
Luckily, no, man. I was so blessed that when I left LA PD to what I do now, I didn't have to see that so much. Now,
what do you think changed as far as like, I mean, you were there when you could go somewhere, and if there was somebody being a public nuisance, and they were doing it doesn't matter if they had psychiatric issues or were under the influence of whatever. Uh, there was no, they didn't have the allowance to just fucking encamp out there.
So what I've noticed is people that actually have to deal with homelessness or mental illness on a day to day because they own and operate a business do not want those people there.
Yeah.
They don't.
Like
The people that are protecting them are the ones that never have to deal with it.
so we used to run. We have a product line,
Mhm.
and we wanted to make our T-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. We wanted to keep it made in the U.S.
Yeah.
And we found a company in L.A. to do it, and it's like not easy
Yeah.
to make anything in the United States anymore. So we were there, and it's basically like a homeless encampment
Yeah.
all around it. And I'm like, holy shit, these guys are not allowing you to do business, and some of them break in.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of shit happening. Like, why isn't anybody doing anything about getting them? And like, they can't.
They can't. Like cops' hands are tied right now when it comes to homelessness. It's really difficult to do anything.
What are they not allowed to do? Basically,
They can't just up and move them. They can't arrest them for
being
public intoxication. They can't arrest them for trespassing. They can
urinating on the street,
No.
defecating on the
No,
street.
no,
All of that
nobody
is-
wants to touch it anymore. It's such a taboo subject that nobody wants to touch it. I mean, trust me, as a cop, I don't want to touch it either.
I understand,
But it was a lot easier back then.
Yeah.
Meaning, we would either have the support structure or the backing of our own department to go, hey, let's either get this person help or move them.
Hey, these businesses are
They're hurting.
complaining about these.
Yeah.
Can we do
Something about that? This is what we're here to do. We're here to help the public, and the public is
and
crying
is,
for need.
and
But it's
the
but
politics.
it's
the
the
politics.
politics.
The politics change.
Yeah, and it's again, it's never the people that are dealing with.
It's never
the
the people.
homelessness.
Yeah.
They want the people out of there. The people that are operating there, they go, we don't want this for ourselves. It's dangerous.
So we like not to be one sided in this, but like when you were there, who were these most of these transient homeless people? They're obviously not from there, maybe, or people that were moving around, moving through.
In our area, in the area that I finally made home, which was the southeast, which is like the Watts area, most of the homelessness there were guys and gals that have been there forever, and they're just drugged out.
Yeah.
They're either drugged out or they're not. They're touched in the head.
Yeah.
Or a combination of both.
Yeah.
But they were the ones that like, oh, there's Ed, the crackhead. We know him.
Mostly,
Yeah.
a little bit. Mostly, basically, mental illness exacerbated by drugs.
Correct.
Or
Alcoholism was another one too.
Alcoholism is
Like big like binge drinkers that they cannot function without alcohol.
And now it is. I mean, going out there myself, and I remember I was at Union Station. I like fucking taking the Surfliner a lot. I don't know why. I think I feel like Harry Potter or some shit like that, I guess. Going out there and you go through Union Station, and it's like you have to have your fucking wits about you.
You gotta be ready.
Right?
Yep. Be ready.
But young, a lot of youth. A lot of young kids that the bodies of 17-year-olds, but the faces of like 40-year-olds. The way that the drugs are eating them.
Again, the transients and, for lack of a better term, the crackheads that I would deal with on a day to day were dudes and gals they've been there forever. They're older. They're like 80s generation crackheads that have, they got caught in the wrong thing and they started doing drugs and it just downward spiral. But crackheads live forever, by the way. They're like cockroaches. They do not die.
Yeah. Heroin and crack.
They don't die.
Preservative.
Yeah, it's a very
preservative.
Yeah, they're like mummified.
Yeah.
But now
but not fentanyl.
No,
the change that we started seeing. Tijuana has a giant local drug market. I remember seeing the transference of that drug market from, most of the sales points were distributing cocaine to the Americans or to some of the rich clientele, upper middle class people in Tijuana. Meth to the workers and all the others, weed which is funny now. I remember the weed back then was shit weed, and now all the weed is being trafficked from San Diego down to Tijuana, which is great fucking weed. But we saw I got to see a little bit about that change. We would find the black tar, like the not black, but very dark heroin balls. Every now and then we would find them. I remember finding one in a plate in the middle of a room, and you can smell that shit from the outside. It's a smell that just stays with you. But we saw the change of that turned into a lighter color.
Cutting, right?
So what we heard is once weed got legalized in California, and that stopped being kind of a moneymaker for some of the criminal groups down here, they switched from weed to poppy fields.
Okay.
But the problem is that a lot of those fields were leached as far as nutrients and shit like that. So the yields that we're getting were not as stinky and as concentrated as this.
Okay.
So they would cut it with shit.
Okay.
So lighter color. And then let's just fucking put fentanyl in there. So I remember, like, right before I left, there was a lot of that. The fentanyl cut into heroin. And, you know, a big part of the drug market, specifically in the center of the city in Tijuana, are Americans crossing from San Diego into Tijuana, getting their fix down here, and going back.
Up, yeah.
But that is less and less because they do that shit and they die. So I remember seeing the droves of people that would do that before. They would go into the canal and fucking take a hit in there. That's not the case anymore. And I was wondering why. And I asked some of the guys that are still on jobs, they're like, what happened to the lines of people that would come in and go out? They're dead. A lot of them are fucking dying because they come in fucking OD somewhere in San Diego because they're even smart about it. They don't want to fucking take that shit down here because they don't want to get picked up by the Cruz Roja down here. But we saw that change. The introduction of fentanyl and what that does for communities like this one and, you know, the one in LA, how it consumes people, and also how it pushes people more and more into the
mental illness portion. Yeah.
So you how long did you spend in that specific field in LAPD?
Drugs were not my specialty, and it wasn't something that I really liked because most of the people that I dealt with on the drug level was either the dealer themselves, which, you know, they're not the true source of the drug. They're just a pawn. Yeah. They're doing their job. And then the actual end user. I didn't have to deal with anything in between, and nobody wants to deal with the end user. It's just nobody does.
Yeah.
But I did see quite an eclectic group of people in between all that stuff. The biggest thing that I love to do was just gang shit. Straight fucking, like guns, stolen vehicles, G-rides, chop shops, shit like that was my jam.
Now
that's what I'd love to do.
This what are the gangs out there when you were working there?
So the last location that I was in southeast, which is Watts, we have all the projects there off of the freeway. Which the bounty hunters.
For people who don't know what the projects are, can you describe some of the architecture in these places?
So they're cookie cutter buildings that look very government like.
How many stories?
So these actually weren't. They were double deckers. They weren't really tall like New York's, you know, skyscraper type shit. But they all look the same. If you have been inside one of them, you know exactly how all of them look.
Layout of all of them.
We
would do stuff like that. We have kind of some of the same things, and at the places where we were trained at, we built exactly one, so we would know how to clear all of them. Basically,
there was variations, slight variations, but you knew where the stove was, you knew where the kitchen was, you knew where the bedrooms were. It was very cookie cutter. So we dealt with a lot of the project gangs. In Southeast.
Do they have halcones down there too? You know, the kids in the street corners kind of shouting out at anybody that's...
Police, hi, police, hi, police. Yeah, the whistling, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're calling. We knew this. Yeah. We knew that they were calling us. Hi, police, hi, police. Like, you don't like us, but hi, police.
It's like the kid doing the fucking scream like a fucking car.
It would always happen. And so we had a lot of that, and that was my jam. That's what I liked. I like to deal with the gangs in the area. I used to love dealing with And it wasn't like necessarily us versus them. It was more like, I got you this time, you got me last time.
No, these are these are organized groups of people armed, protecting a territory,
Correct.
and also making money off distribution. I imagine.
Of course, they were.
It,
Well, it was kind of a lot of different things. They were protecting their territory, their community, their tribe, and they truly believe that that area belonged to
yeah,
them.
it's a property.
It's their property, according to them. I'm like, this is city property, but okay, this is
Yeah.
your property. There was that. There is also the money portion. You know, how do they make money?
Yeah.
Be it
How did they? Well, like, what was the main money makers for them?
drugs.
Drugs.
Drugs was the main money maker. The other one being stolen goods. A lot of stolen goods.
Anything in their area that was
Everything that wasn't
Gettable.
bolted to the ground. On a real note, a lot of it was vehicle stuff. A lot of vehicle theft, auto theft. Burglaries were big. Robberies were huge. Armed robberies were big. That was a big thing. Armed robberies were a big thing. And then snatch and grabs from businesses were big, especially like the cell phone areas. Anywhere where they knew there was a cash cow, where people would go in, like T-Mobiles or Metro Paisa, you go in and pay for your
Metro
bills.
Paisa.
Metro Paisa. And go in and pay for your bill. Everything was cash there.
Yeah,
so they knew.
They knew.
They
where-
knew. Yeah, they knew.
So you talk about them being distributors. Obviously, they're getting their product from somebody. Yeah. And this whole the weird hand of whoever that is. Did you ever kind of encounter that upper hand?
Only a handful of times, and that was once we found out that it was an upper echelon person, we had to kind of give it over to the narco unit.
Yeah.
Like, you guys deal with it now. We'll do the initial arrest, or sometimes it would say, hey, we're not going to arrest him.
Yeah.
We're going to keep him for a while. We're going to question him. We'll talk to him, and if he,
And
maybe we can make him an informant.
What type of places did you hear as far as these upper hands? Sinaloa, basically.
Some of it was trying to think here. Some of it would come from MM members that had connections to people down here, down south, and then some of it you could just see it straight up in the streets. The vehicles that people were driving, the type of music that they were playing, what they were wearing. I go, there's some kind of distribution going on within this area, and people knew, like, you would get it from these people.
Where are the weapons coming from? Like, this is California. I know it's not not as restrictive as it is now.
Yeah.
But where are these? What type of weapons, and where are they coming from?
So a lot of the weapons were stolen. A lot of the weapons that we
like
dealt with.
burglaries. They go into a house and all of a sudden, like, you find, look at this.
They would either target locations where they knew there was guns. Whatever reason they got into.
Stickers on the car outside, motherfucker following from the range.
Then blue line type shit, fucking stickers, I own a Glock and a Kimber. I don't call the police in this property type shit.
Basically, come burglarize my house.
Come burglarize my house type shit. That we dealt in a lot of stolen fucking firearms. And then the type of weapons that we would get, it would vary from stop to stop and location to location. But most of the gangsters had handguns. Handguns were easy to conceal.
Yeah,
handguns are easy to conceal. A lot of revolvers were used because the casings wouldn't fall out, and they knew this. They started catching on. Like, I could shoot someone, and the casings would stay with me. We didn't have fucking evidence on the ground, so they would learn from that. They would get a lot of revolvers, a lot of snub noses, something that's easy to conceal, shit that you like.
Yeah.
We wouldn't get stabbings too often, but it was mostly like drive-bys and walk-ups. If it was big armory, it was usually AKs, and a few like AR pistol type shit that you could tell that they built themselves.
Yeah, they ordered some of the parts online or they cobbled it to get Frankenstein.
They call them Frankenstein builds, and those they would usually use to do actual hits. Like, they would go around, and that's what they did their drive-bys. And shotguns were big too. Shotguns, especially sawed-off shit that was, again, easy to conceal. Something that's like they could hide it.
It's an interesting thing because of the connection there, like this Frankenstein builds. The reason I know about Frankenstein builds or have awareness of that is because a lot of these gang members on the U.S. side would actually come down and freelance here for some of the cartel groups, which is a perfect way of doing it. There's a whole history of them, specifically people related to Miami. Basically, people who, gang members from the U.S. who had experience and who had, at least some familiarity with firearms, and they're doing their stuff up in the U.S. Perfect people to bring down here, go and do a hit, and then run back across the border.
Did you find that any of those guys had military experience from the U.S. side?
Yes. And the military, some of them had military experience, and specifically, some of them actually came down here to get that training.
Okay.
This is something that happened a lot. There was a case of I don't know exactly where in Tijuana, I don't remember. I think in Obrera or in Hidalgo, they found this house that had a underground shooting range with ventilation, like brass catching shit, and like reloading the stations and everything like that. And some interviews with some of the people caught in different hits in Tijuana that had gang affiliations in the U.S. side talk about getting transported to this place where they got trained by, mercenaries,
It's fun.
Israelis and
It's funny,
whatever.
funny you say that because I know for a while we were getting a lot of gang awareness training within the department. And in hindsight, when I think about it, a lot of the guys that I served with in the military, when I start remembering the type of tattoos they had and where they came from, they were straight gangsters. They're
A lot of,
cholos.
cholos.
And they got recruited purposely to join the military so that when they got out, they could use that training experience to further, their cliques and their people.
I remember somebody screaming out, and it's not. I wasn't there for it, but like somebody, there was a debriefing of a situation that happened somewhere, a shootout, and on it was cartel guys dressed as federal agents. And I remember in the debriefing and reading some of the reports afterwards, one of them was yelling out Overwatch, which
Look
I
at that.
remember like it like in English.
Yeah.
Overwatch, and that's such a specific thing
It's
to yell
very
out,
specific, yeah.
and yeah, there were probably people that, doing shit in here and in other places that had some of that background to them. We have a history of and rumors of for military members training cartel people here in Mexico, including some pretty interesting IED situations where they would set off a car, and then when the emergency services, they would set off the secondary explosion.
Yes.
Which is reminiscent of stuff from the Middle East, which I don't think the Taliban is down here. I think it's probably Americans that learned some shit from the Taliban, doing some stuff. But I remember that I remember hearing that whole Overwatch, and I learned about Overwatch by my training with the Americans.
Yep.
So it was like it's a weird thing to scream out.
Very specific. Back to you had asked me where are these guns coming from. Another source of information that we had gotten was, again, some of these organizations were sending their own family members or recruits or whatever associates to the military to work specific jobs where they had access to things, and they would slowly send parts home, slowly send things home, or hey, I'm off base with something, come meet us up. And that was, I knew people that got arrested for that shit on my base.
Like what type? Like so we would find 40 millimeter grenade rounds.
Yep.
And every time we'd find them, they would be linked back up to, they would walk off a base in the U.S.
For us, the things that we knew they were getting caught with were items that can easily be disposed of, like a one-time use and boom, it's gone, like the grenades. A lot of, believe it or not, a lot of people were taking smokes for some reason.
Like smoke canisters and smoke grenades.
Yeah, it was really weird. But explosives were one of them, and obviously we would never find them stateside. It was probably getting shipped somewhere else. Remember, those aren't serialized numbers, serialized items. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, we would hear rumors and of them. There were several giant armories were found in Tijuana. And in these armories, we would find things that were probably cobbled together or pieced together from that walked off some military base in the U.S. But every now and then, we would hear rumors of firearms actually making their way back.
Wow!
So going back up and being found up there with regalia or with things on them that would make them think that they spent some time in Mexico. I remember one of them was. And this is from my just interacting and talking to them, stateside people, when we had a good relationship with them. They had I think it was an AK, and a gun. And the guns, the gun and the AK both had embellishments on them. And those embellishments were done by a very famous guy that did embellishments like that in Mexico.
Okay.
But they were originated in the U.S. So they were smuggled down to Mexico, embellished, and then sent back. That was one of those interesting little phenomena. Um, did any of that follow you home? You're basically working against these people in a place where you're kind of living out of, and there's I mentioned the following you home. I mean, going somewhere and you're off time, and all of a sudden seeing a dude that
So crazy thing about especially work at South Central is so think of it this way. South Central is here in the middle. Maybe less than 7 to 10 miles in one direction is like Beverly Hills. The separation there is like very little. The separation between me, South Central, and where I live, another 5 to 10 miles. For some reason, criminals just like to stay in their spot because they're comfortable.
Yeah, that's their place.
That's their place. They're creatures of habit. They don't like to go outside unless they're actively like looking for someone, which I never gave these dudes reasons to fucking hate me. There was always a mutual respect between gangster and cop, at least when I was there,
Yeah.
where, oh, it's Officer Perez. What's up, officer? What's up? What's up, fucking Chico? What are you doing today? Nothing, just getting fucked up. All right. You have a gun on you? Nah, not today. All right, cool. Tomorrow? Maybe. I'm cool. So like I got to build, working there for years and years, I got to build that rapport with some of the gangs.
Nothing personal. Yeah.
Very few times did some of the dudes take it personal.
Now, did you encounter that? I mean, I think it's the same everywhere, where you have people that are in that line of work with you that are basically vomiting their personal life and frustrations on the job.
Yes.
It
typically revolves around a few things: financial problems, woman problems, or alcohol or drug abuse.
Yeah.
And then if they have all of those combined,
and they go to work,
they go to work, it's
beat
a
the shit out of somebody.
Whirlwind. It's
Yeah.
fucking bad, and we've had to deal with that shit before.
Yeah.
I won't name any people, but we've had to deal with that shit where they were. We loved them because they were, part of the brotherhood, but they make us look bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. They burn everybody, and also they make enemies out of people that were assets at some point.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, same shit here. When does that end for you? Which it sounds like something you really like to do, and so why did that end?
I did take a step back from law enforcement.
What made you take that step?
So I had another opportunity that just kind of fell into my lap. So during the time that I was LAPD, I spent a lot of time, my free time, kind of freelancing, doing executive protection. So working in LA, there's a large opportunity in that area to work.
There's a lot of people with money and a lot of people with influence that don't want to get fucking jacked, basically.
Correct. And it's even worse now than it was back then. It used to be more like, I want to have a bodyguard next to me because it looks cool. Or I don't want to drive, so can we get a cop to drive?
Now it's a necessity for some people.
And now it's a necessity. I would venture to say for 90% of fucking people, people are getting jacked left and right.
Yeah, I saw this guy, is a luxury watch influencer guy.
Yep.
That says he has to go to the safety deposit box, take out his watch, put it on for an event, and then go back and put it in there because he doesn't want to get jacked in Beverly Hills.
And a lot of this stems from like inside jobs or people that are on social media and they post shit. And
they know.
They go, hey, fucking Gerry and Ed are there, and I know Gerry likes to floss. Let's go fucking get some fucking ice, dude. And it stems from that. But there's a lot of the criminals are getting very smart now. And what they're doing is they're going to locations where they know there's money and they follow people. And they either do home invasions or they rob them when they're getting home or they rob them in locations where they feel that those people are vulnerable. There's a lot of that shit happening a lot. So back to my original thing was I started doing a lot of executive protection, but my executive protection back then, especially back then, was a lot of dignitary or red carpet events. So the Emmys, the Latin Grammys, anything that was red carpet where there was a lot of famous people there present.
Who'd you meet? Yeah, you can't talk about clients, I know, but
Those were just most
any
of them.
celebrity.
I mean, George Clooney.
Oh my
What
God.
else? I didn't get to meet him in the
What if
sense
Kate
that we're a lot of people that were movie stars that we would just kind of take care of them. I
Yeah.
wasn't directly there.
I get it.
There were my client.
They all have
They have their own
people.
people.
Yeah.
That wasn't until now that I'm working directly for a famous person, a famous family. I got introduced to them while I was still working LAPD, and it just we grew together, and I saw this particular family grow and their business grow, and they offered me a lucrative position. They said, "Hey, what is it going to take for you to leave
That fucking life.
to come to this?" And at the time, I was having a lot of difficulties with the, my agency as well. A lot of internal stuff. I was getting in trouble all the time.
What was the trouble about?
Trouble was mostly stemmed off of me doing my job and them not wanting me to do my job. Meaning, Gerry, why are you always getting into fights? I'm like, I'm not the one getting into fights. I am defending myself.
Yeah.
And I'm just stopping criminals, gangsters, and people that are taking it personal now, and they want to fucking fight me. And look, I'm fucking 5'9", $180, and I don't look intimidating.
Yeah.
And they go, I size this motherfucker. I could take that little bitch on.
Yeah.
And we would fight, and this would happen constantly. So between the
opportunities presenting themselves,
I just said, I don't see myself doing this full time anymore.
You have a kid.
I do.
Where's he in this? He's not there yet.
So he is now. At the time when I accepted the position where I'm at now with my company, my son was really young, but all he's ever known is police life for me.
Did his presence in your life change anything?
Yes. Another reason why I kind of wanted to leave law enforcement was because of my kid.
What does it feel? What does that feel like? Like for me, it felt like my heart was now walking around outside of me, and I felt vulnerable for the first time in my fucking life.
For me, it felt like it used to be, not that I was reckless with law enforcement in the sense that, fuck it, if, YOLO, if this is my last fucking patrol time, this is my last. It wasn't that exactly, but I almost didn't walk around with fear.
Yeah.
But then my son came, it's like, I got to be smarter about the way I operate.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just jump out on people anymore all the time. I can't sneak around in alleys, hiding my fucking badge and police. Yeah. I can't do that anymore. Like I have to know, pick and choose my battles, because this isn't my life anymore. This is not my life anymore. It's this kid's now.
It's his.
So I did have to take a step back and kind of reevaluate it all and go, yeah, I think he probably wants me around a little bit longer.
Yeah. He for me it was I was suicidal as fuck all throughout it. Like I was looking for that bullet.
Yeah.
And I never pretty close, but never found it. And when when my kid was born, it was like, fuck. Yeah. It's not about me anymore, this whole feeling of vulnerability now that it matters. You find these opportunities, you kind of like exit that life. Where does Triple Feed and your training? You do a lot of training with in both of the law enforcement and civilian world now. Have some cool ass fucking videos online of you shooting and doing all this cool ass shit. And I've seen you shoot. The culture around firearms right now in the United States it's an interesting time to be in it.
It is.
Specifically, being somebody from California, and getting all the shit that is happening in California as far as the restrictions and a lot of that. Where does that start for you as far as like, this is something I'm going to pursue as an instructor and start this company called Triple Feed?
So for me, it was a few things. I, at a very early time in my law enforcement career, I noticed that cops don't get training.
Yeah.
They just don't. So
people assume that though.
Oh, yeah, dude,
you're
the best shot.
Yeah,
I think the stats out there are LAPD in a shooting in an OIS, they probably, and this is just your traditional cop, patrol cop. I want to say at one point the numbers were like, yeah, they hit like 17% of the time. I'm like, bro, what? And like, yeah, those are big numbers. I'm like, no, no. I think standards and training has evolved a lot more than from when I was in, but because of the lack of training that we had, um, I kind of went out and started finding my own training and paying out of pocket and
You're
going.
basically doing things in reverse. All the shit that you were missing. Now you need to.
I need
Is
to go
that where
in.
the jujitsu card starts coming into your life,
The,
or
the jujitsu, the firearms training, the just all sorts of stuff started coming. It stemmed from me thinking that I was good at something because I was trained, and then realizing, fuck, I suck. I suck at everything that I'm supposed to be good at.
Yeah.
Um,
Like who was your like? Do you have an instructor, like a shooting instructor that you kind of like experience, and you're like, fuck, I need to up my game.
so I think just being, I would look for instructors or classes and just put myself through it out of pocket and go, yeah, these guys are really good. Okay. Or the people around me, the individual shooters there, the students themselves are really good. And I go, I gotta up my game. People like Knockout Lights, like Mike,
Yeah.
he's one of the guys that has really, really influenced me into being better, being that he's law enforcement himself or prior law enforcement.
Mike he has an Instagram account. Is
Correct.
it back?
It is back. It is back. Yeah.
He got taken out.
He got taken out. Yeah, he got sucked.
He basically he runs. I mean, for me, like I learned just by watching that account. He does a lot of show me, don't tell me, basically instruction. He shuts his mouth and just fucking
lets the gun do its work. Yeah,
and then he has an interesting channel. Obviously, fucking proficient guy.
Yeah.
But seeing people like him for me, or anybody out there in the civilian world, it's intimidating sometimes when you see somebody of his level and being that proficient with what he does, and I'm like, I'm never gonna fucking be that,
And that's why this is where Triple Feed comes in. It's funny. So the whole law enforcement and me not being trained made me want to get training, and then from there, being put in charge of training at my executive protection company, the family that I protect, we have a big enough infrastructure where I run the training program, and I've gone through instructor level schools and I've gone through all sorts of different stuff. And I'm not saying that I'm good or in any sense. I know what I know, and I teach, and I'm well versed, and I teach what I know. I don't teach outside my scope. And then here, during a training course that I was taking, an instructor level training course, I met Brian and Luis, the other members of Triple Feed.
Two students as well. They were students?
They were students. As students, I met them. One of them, Luis, is born and raised in Mexico, and he came out this side, and he actually just became a naturalized citizen. It's funny.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Not an easy thing, by the way. I'm going through that process. Yeah. It's not easy.
It wasn't easy for him either. So congratulations to Luis for that. And I met him through a training course, where it's an instructor level training course, and he does a lot of executive protection, and he's just an overall camera, like videographer, photographer nerd. He's like really good at that shit. Yeah. Really fucking good. And he's also a really good EP agent. And then Brian, the other member, he comes from a special operations background. So he's still currently in the Air Force technically, but he spent, I want to say 12 years active duty as a combat controller.
Okay.
So he comes with that background, and he was an instructor in his unit for a unit there, and then he's still in the Air National Guard, I believe, and he still instructs there, and he still does stuff. So he's very proficient at what he does. And you notice a trend here. There's the cop, there's the EP civilian, and then there's the special operations guy. Yeah. And we kind of all came together, and we're like, well, what's the common ground here? The common ground is we love firearms, and we love training, and we want to teach people. And you said a lot of these guys are very intimidating, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that Mike is intimidating. He is. I won't want to fucking get in a fight with it. But he is, for somebody that is not of that level, he represents something like, let's say, a Jocko Willnick to somebody like me. He's like, I'm not going to get up at 4 a.m. Somebody of that level. And I think accessibility to training sometimes, and people looking at some of the stuff on social media, it seems like something really far
Yeah.
off, and I'm never going to get there. So you have somebody from special operations. You have somebody in the EP field who is also a videographer and can make shit cool,
Yeah.
digestible, and is able to communicate and cast out. And you have yourself,
Myself.
who's been hungry for training, who went through the whole process of actually going out there and gaining the experience and kind of doing things in the reverse.
Very
Because
reverse,
you
yeah.
know, you go and gain the experience and like, I could have done that better.
I wish I had that back then.
Let me go fucking off training. So the three of you come together and like, what can we offer that isn't out there?
And what we like to say is our training is for everyone. It's not just for, the cops. It's not just for your average day-to-day shooter. It's not just for military operation type dudes and gals. It's for everyone. And every course that we've ever taught, the number one thing that students always say is, you guys are very approachable. Like we're not intimidated by this in the sense that like they could come up and talk to us and ask us questions, and what the knowledge that we give them is very digestible, and they enjoy it, and it's very enjoyable for them. And all three of us kind of round robin the course. Like we'll teach it in blocks, and we just feed off of each other, and it's never just one person that's super intimidating. I've been to courses where the instructor kind of makes it about themselves, and
It's a high level guy, and I do like I not sneak around. But I go and go as a student to a lot of courses out there, and I use my other name,
Yeah.
and I've encountered some of that whole aspect of, this is me, this is what I did, and let me tell you a bunch of war stories about all the shit that I did for the next 4 hours, and then you're going to shoot a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it, and then you're going to hear more stories.
Yeah.
And which I understand how some people are that way, but the ability to go somewhere where everybody's at a level, and you have instructors there that not only have the experience base, but also have the experience base as students themselves.
Yeah.
And can make things digestible, and there's no stupid questions, just fucking awkward silences. That whole aspect is something I've always kind of looked for myself when I go somewhere as a student myself.
It also comes down to knowing your crowd. Like there's batches of students that we've done privates for, and we could treat them a certain way. They're cool with it. Kind of like what you were talking about with the medical training, the stress inoculation stuff. Like we had a company reach out to us, and they said, "Can you guys do medical training, like a pseudo TCCC TECC course?" And I go, "Well, we have the resources for it. We have PJs that are under our cadre that we could use. They could write the curriculum for us. It's not going to be a TCCC certified course. Like we're not going to get you a certificate that's pretty, but we'll teach you everything from somebody that's combat operational with this. This is the guy that runs it for their unit." And they go, "Do it." I go, "Okay, this is the curriculum. What do you think?" And they go, "Fucking awesome. All right, cool." And we asked him beforehand, we go, "Do you want to be stressed out? Do you want scenarios? Do you want blood?" They're like, "Yeah, well, we'll pay for it." I'm like, "All right, cool." So we put it together, and that's what we did, And again, it comes down to knowing your crowd.
Knowing your crowd, and also the fact that some people will go to a class like that because they're forced to.
Yeah.
This is something we have to go through at the office, and you're not gonna.
They're called training hostages.
Yeah, training hostages.
Hostages.
You have a training hostage. It's very different when somebody, goes up to you. It's like, "Hey, I saw you guys fucking doing this. Like, is this for the military only?" Which is a lot of sometimes when people see that, is this law enforcement only?
Law enforcement only, and usually we've never done an LE or military course only. We've done custom stuff for military and law enforcement, but we've never done a course where it's, you go to the website and you go, "Well, this is only enrollment for law enforcement. You got to show us your creds." Yeah. Like, no, we've never done that before.
What type of course offerings do you guys offer?
So one of our specialties is low light, white light courses. So
how to operate
with a flashlight,
which is, again, you want to talk about retarded shit. I operate with flashlights. I remember getting the Streamlight, the one with the laser on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the brightest light in the world, fucking yellow as shit. I dug it out of a box recently, but I wasn't told anything about not turning it on, and when there's a reflective surface there and fucking blinding yourself while you're moving around a house.
And then what if you're working in a team environment?
Oh shit.
What if you're working? So flashlights are for nighttime? Yeah.
Yeah,
No, they're not. No, they're for fucking low light.
I want to put it on my gun
Yeah.
so I can illuminate what and point at my gun and shit because this is the way you defend your house.
That is one of the specialty courses that we teach is low light courses, both with handguns concealed over and also with carbines or rifles, whatever you want to call it, and how to operate. And
So
you would think
weapon attached and also handheld flashlights.
weapon mounted lights and also predominantly the handheld flashlight. And this is why. I'm going to give you an example, prime example right now. I am in a location that I cannot bring my stuff with me.
Yeah,
I could bring some stuff.
you can bring some stuff or make some stuff, but
Or
you
make
can't,
some stuff,
You
but I
can't
can't-
bring your.
I can't bring my
Yeah.
stuff. But what I do have in my pocket is a fucking flashlight. I have tools. I have things that I could use. A flashlight is a tool that a lot of people don't realize how useful a flashlight is until they need a flashlight or until they get taught how to use a flashlight properly,
Yeah.
how to use it as a tool, how to use it as a force multiplier, how to use it
So
as
it's not just taking it out of the box and clipping it in your pocket.
no. It's like we will teach you how to do everything with a flashlight and how useful it is.
Yeah, it's a multi-tool.
It's a multi-tool. It really is. And people don't realize that. They go, oh, you just point the flashlight at something. I go, yeah, that's one way of doing things. So that's one of the courses that we offer. And we teach that one quite a bit. We also do just basic, fundamental, handgun, firearms manipulations, everything. We do that. We recently, are you familiar with California Range Week?
Yeah, yeah.
So we recently hosted. No, well, we weren't hosting it. Tony's the actual facilitator. Axiom Training Group. They put together California Range Week. This was the second year that they did it, and this was our second time going. And one of the courses that we taught was a broken carbine course.
Okay.
And basically, what it was is an all-day course on how to fix a rifle if it's not functional.
If it goes down,
it
goes down in the classic ways.
Yeah, classic ways, the unconventional ways, why they would go down. It wasn't heavy on pulling triggers. Now, did we get to shoot? Yes, we did. But it was everyone left with their hands bloodied and
correcting machines that are fucking jammed.
Correct. And we would purposely make them jam so that we knew why they would jam and then how to fix them. So that is actually a one-of-a-kind course that I've never seen offered anywhere in the industry. People that teach firearms will teach you a block on how to fix something, and then they go, okay, the rest is history. Now we're here to pull the triggers. I'm like, cool, all right. But no one has I've never seen a course offered that teaches you specifically how to fix every single problem with your rifle, why they go down, and then the conventional ways, the unconventional ways, and then things that will catastrophically happen to your rifle, and you just have to get another.
You have to get another one. Yeah,
you have to get a new.
This is something, in a disposable consumer environment where you're not actually depending on this weapon for everything
to protect your life or others.
Again, my experience, I was out somewhere with a G3 rifle, or an FAN, FAL, and not knowing what the gas selector thing on front of it is, and if you don't know what that is, it'll make your magazine explode downwards while you're shooting that shit. But you don't know any of it.
You don't know any of it, no.
And I remember having that problem and then having to go on YouTube, But having the experience. So again, U.S. and Americans don't really know how good they have it as far as not only some of the freedoms that your Constitution allows you to bear arms. And for me, seeing that I see it as a responsibility more than a right.
Yeah.
For me, people ask me like, "Hey, like, what do you think about gun trafficking into Mexico and shit like that, and how some of those freedoms in the United States are a detriment to Mexico because of how they get used down here? Do you think that's a cause enough for them to be no guns for the Americans then?" I think there is a part in the gun culture that is irresponsible. When I say that, I mean there are people buying guns as a solution for a problem, which is like buying an amulet, It's like buying a plane and thinking that's going to make you a pilot.
Mhm.
You know, training not only in the basics of it, but the maintaining that proficiency with a firearm and the responsibility that entails. You know, how to you have somebody that buys an AR-15 and just puts it in the in the back of a closet,
Classic Americans right there.
which is cool. Or somebody that has like like 100 of fucking 100 guns. That all like God bless those people as well. But the responsibility of not only going out there and maintaining proficiency with that firearm, but also knowing how to correctly maneuver that firearm in a bad situation. Which is people will see some of your classes where you're doing room clearing or you're doing moving in buildings. They're like, "What the fuck are you going to teach that to civilians for?" Well, we just lived through a Black Lives Matter, civilian unrest, COVID epidemic, and I was in places in the U.S. that had no police response. As somebody from Mexico coming to the United States and experiencing that loneliness as far as the responsibility of protecting yourself, I was in a very familiar place. And seeing some of the Americans freak out, COVID hit, hey, can I borrow a gun? The lines of people outside the gun store, all of a sudden, it's a very important thing. I think it's an essential thing. The responsibility, again, not only to maintain that proficiency with that firearm, not just buy a firearm as a solution itself, because that's no solution, but also the responsibility of maintaining that proficiency in the training. And having people like you guys who offer it without the whole, you have to be a cool guy, or you have to dress like a cool guy, or you have to have the cool equipment. But I don't know what the cool equipment is.
Yeah. So guns are now part of our culture. Like, it's been
It's
part
essential.
of. It's essential. There
It's an
is
essential thing.
no reason why people should not own firearms. And back to your point, training. If you're going to own something, just be proficient with it. I'm not asking you to be the best there ever is with something. Just know the basic functionality of what it is that you carry or what it is that you have at home. And that's it. That's really it. Just seek out your own training. But to say that, we should just get rid of guns, or to say that, oh, no, guns aren't for everyone. Now, there are few exceptions, people with mental illnesses, like deep mental illnesses.
The mental illness aspect of it, and the degradation of people's ability to function because of prescription medication related to some of these issues. The lack of supervision and oversight by family nucleuses around these firearms, and just people being shitty and distant and separate is the issue, not the firearms.
No, it's not the
Not the
firearms.
firearms.
That is the issue. But again, how do we handle that? Like, how and who handles it, and who has the responsibility to handle that?
Well, I think the main thing I see, and again, this is me as an observer. I'm new to the U.S. I love the United States. It has been both very good to me, and also there's some shit that has happened that hasn't been too friendly. But the main thing I recognize in it is that in a lot of places, and I've been to a lot of parts of the United States. I think I've traveled to most states. I think Iowa is missing, and but I'll go there eventually, I guess. It's a warrior culture, or at least it was at some point. You used to have you could go sports shooting at school. There's still some parts of the United States where kids arrive to school with a shotgun in the back window of a
They
truck.
still teach that, yeah.
And I see that, and I was like, that's cool. That's a cool part of it. But now there's the detachment and a separation in the culture where guns are being vilified, and they're considered something destructive in and of themselves. And maybe maybe some of these situations that happen with mass shooters and people that are completely, obviously fucked up in the head, and some of the processes that put people into that type of a situation. That's what should be looked at more closely than the actual firearms.
Correct.
And having the ability to go to some people like you guys, where you can just have access to it. I encounter a lot of people that are starting off into this whole process of training themselves. They see in me like an entryway to some of this stuff. Hey, how can I be safe? How can I be aware? And I say, well, what type of firearms do you like, Ed? Well, the 38 is a pretty good one. I like that. Maybe a Mossberg Scout with a scope on it, so I can shoot you from really far away. and they see these selections as weird and unique. Like, why are you basing these selections on it? Well, that's what I've seen work, and that's a bare minimum as
Yeah.
far as what you would want. But if I could get to pick what I wanted, probably got to get a carbine, and be proficient with it. Home defense gun of some sort. Not only home defense gun, because you have a country that has lived through a period of great unrest,
Yeah.
and I imagine there's more ahead of us.
To me, it always comes down to what is your budget, number one. Number two, what is the reason why you want to own this particular item? Like, not necessarily like me telling you can't own this. If you want to buy something, totally for it. But what is the reason for you? You said that you have a very specific reason why you want those two items, because you've been there, you've done that, it's worked for you.
It's a universal solution. You can California safe. You can hunt with it. You can carry it. There's some advantages, some disadvantages to those selections, but it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. Yeah.
And if you are going to start off a base and work off a base, that's a good base to work off.
Yeah.
If people want to find out more about what you do, the training you provide, and the company Triple Feed as well, where can they?
Two different places. So we do have a website, triple-feed.com, not triplefeed.com, because triplefeed.com has to do with breastfeeding. Unfortunately,
okay.
We tried to buy the website and they wouldn't give it up. I guess they love breastfeeding. So triple-feed.com. We have a contact us there email.
Yeah.
And you can just email us if you guys want to actually do a custom course. Again, everything under the sun, we've taught some portion of it, be it CQB, just regular combatives, not combatives, I'm sorry, basic fundamental marksmanship with handguns, rifles. But we've done medical, we've done CQB because we have providers and we have people that do that for a living. And then if you want more specialty stuff, we could also do it. So there's that. And if not, on our actual Instagram handle, so triple_feed, you can reach us there. We always answer DMs, or you could just reach me on my personal as well. And I pretty much, as long as you're not sending me unsolicited photos, I will answer almost every single fucking DM. And even if you have questions about, well, hey, this is what I do for a living. And,
I want to start.
I want to start somewhere. What do you recommend? I will give you recommendations based off of what I've seen. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best thing out there. It's just what works for me and in my environment and what I've seen work. Or I could point you in the right direction. I have people, or I know people like yourself, Ed, like some of the other guys that we have on our group chats, some of the people that I know in law enforcement, military, that are willing to do the same thing. And they might be more readily available for that individual, be it because you're in the region that you're in. You might not be able to travel to California or Las Vegas. You're more on the East Coast. I could recommend people on the East Coast that I trust, that I value. That's the number one thing I tell people in this industry is vet your fucking instructors.
Yeah.
Vet your instructors. You don't want to get, Uncle Mike's, holster instructor that's NRA certified through, a website that got ordained online and can now marry you and at the same time qualify you. It's like, why would you want that? Like, vet your instructors. And I don't mean YouTube or Instagram vet. I mean, like, ask around, ask people, like, hey, have you
prior students, who have they worked with, who have they trained? I do that, some of that for myself when I go off and go in as a student with an instructor, and also people have to realize it is a risky.
It is.
Training environment, and it's always a good idea to have people that are qualified in front of you.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with asking questions.
No, as a matter of fact, I encourage students to ask questions when they're at courses. Don't be intimidated. And damn, that sounds weird. Like, why are we okay? I guess we're gonna have to do it because the instructor told me to do it.
Yeah.
Ask questions as long as they're reasonable questions. You're not asking them,
what if this?
Yeah.
The 4,000 what ifs.
Exactly. And there's a time and a place to ask questions. And as an instructor, you should know when a student is sniping or when the student's trying to
Yeah.
But definitely ask questions, and I'm here if anybody as a resource if anybody needs anything.
And thank you for this fucking conversation. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, sir.
Awesome company. Awesome training, and I want to go as a student. And
always
I'm probably gonna take Abby out there, and we're gonna fucking film some of that shit as a fucking I do a lot of this type of shooting, with the two hands. So we'll figure out some dual wielding MP5s or something.
I think a snub nose portion of you clearing a room with a snubby and a fucking flashlight would be fucking tits, McGee.
I'll figure it out. Thank you for coming out, carnal.
Gracias, amigo.